and less gay. Ah. Boom, ladies and gentlemen, and we're live. Alonzo Bodden. How are you, man?
What is up, Joe? I'm great, man.
Somber times. Great. These are the weirdest fucking times ever. R.I.P. to Tom Petty. I guess we have to say that too.
Yeah,
and then obviously,
it's a ridiculous time, and like everyone's been saying, again. You know what I mean? It's like here we go again. Another mass shooting, and I think the most disturbing graphic to me was the scorecard. Like they showed, like this guy got 58, and then the guy in Orlando got 40 something, and so because it's like, okay, you just encouraged the next psycho to try to set the record. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be. There has to be another way to say it without giving publicity to he killed more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, for everybody who's listening in the future, this is taking place. We're recording this on Tuesday. The massacre happened in Las Vegas on Sunday, so it's just a couple days ago. And we were just going over all the details of it. I'm reading it online here. It killed 59 people, injured 527, which is just fucking completely insane. I mean, 527 people shot. Is that right? Or is that like, does that count people trampled?
I think it includes people trampled and injured otherwise, but there were a hell of a lot of people shot. I mean, he opened up with automatic weapons into a crowd of thousands of people to where probably, did any bullet hit the ground? Like there were so many people at this thing that every bullet probably hit somebody.
Yeah, probably.
Or more than one person, depending. I don't know the power of the ballistics of the weapon, but
oh yeah,
it definitely, like, bullets could have went through one guy into the next
100%,
person and so on.
I'm sure they did. 100%. This guy, first of all, there's everybody's this becomes a big gun control argument, which it should be, right? But one thing that we got to really take into consideration is he had illegal guns. These guns were illegal, I think, for 25 years. So this isn't. I don't know how much of this could have been helped by making it more illegal.
Yeah, that's always a debate. The first problem is what was going on yesterday when they say this is not the time to talk about guns.
Of course it is.
And of course, it's the exact time to talk about guns. And I'm not a gun guy in the sense that I'm not a gun owner, but I get it with guys who are into guns. I always compare it to my love of cars and bikes or anything mechanical or whatever. I understand it, but most of the people I talk to who love guns don't have a problem with like registration, certainly don't have a problem with education,
right?
And what I call common sense gun ownership. And there are some guns that I get it, you want. There are some guns that, and again, I'm not speaking with any expertise, but from the layman's point of view, it's like, why do you need this semi-automatic military style weapon? Don't tell me you have it for hunting or anything else. Like if there's a reason you want to collect it, just like if there's a reason you want to own a race car, right? And somebody says, why do you need a car that does 200 miles an hour? Well, you may have a reason you want that race car, but you don't use it on the street. You can't take it, onto the streets. And I think that should be that there should be some kind of rule with that kind of weapon.
But here's the thing: it doesn't matter if there's a rule. There were plenty of rules.
Yeah,
this guy violated all the rules. This
guy did. But I'm just talking about the general attitude towards sales. Just the idea that you can walk into a store and buy these weapons. It should somehow be more difficult to, and again, this is my opinion, right? But I think it should be more difficult to buy a weapon of that type.
Yeah, well, these are all illegal weapons. This guy shot
he converted them
illegal
to fully automatic, and fully automatic's illegal everywhere, right?
Here's what's fucked up about this guy. This guy didn't have a criminal record. He had no army training, no religious or political affiliations. No one has any idea what his motives were. He was wealthy. He's a big-time high roller, which is how he got this giant suite in Vegas. I mean, it is fucking bizarre. Did you see his brother get interviewed?
Yeah, and that's the thing about this. That's the thing about this kind of insanity, right? There is usually no outward, like how many people are like this in this country that we don't know about? You know what I mean? That have, and particularly if you're wealthy, it's so much easier to hide it, right? Because you may have a big house,
right?
You may have a compound, you may have a camp, a place you go camping in the woods that's actually stocked with 100 weapons or something like that. I mean, that the randomness of this, to me, that is the biggest horror. The worst thing about this to me is just the idea, like, you went to a fucking concert.
Right.
Like, that's all you did. You went to a concert in Vegas, and you're never coming home. Your family's destroyed, everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that is the utter randomness of it that you can't control.
Well, that's what's terrifying about it. Which is really strange to me, the definition of terrorist. Nobody's calling this guy a terrorist. Like, what? Do you have to be, like, political or religious to be a terrorist? Like, how the fuck? How is this guy not a terrorist?
Yeah, this is definitely terror. This is definitely terror because, you know why it's terror? Because now, are you going to go to a big event in Vegas? Are you going to go to a big outdoor Vegas does these music festivals
that's in front of these towers,
right? And
where someone could do something like this.
And the pools, they have those giant EDM parties at the pools all summer that are literally surrounded by the tower of whatever hotel you're in. So so that's why it's terror, because now you have to be afraid to do that.
Well, not only that, like this, now they're going to have some sort of screening when you go into hotels, which, by the way, why the fuck didn't they have them already? I've always thought this, like, the airports are so stringent. Like, you go through the airports, they check your dick. They literally will pat your dick if you hit a random, you know? Bing! I'm sorry, sir, we got to check your dick. You're random. And they literally put the back of their hand, which was really odd to me, that it's okay to touch your dick with the back of your hand. It's like the less sensitive.
They get to smooth your dick down.
Grab it.
They get to smooth it down.
Yeah. But it's so weird. Like, it's okay, sir, I'm just using the back of my hand to touch your dick. Like,
they might have had him grabbing, and some guy was just like, I'm not grabbing a hard dick.
Yeah.
Like, there's,
I doubt it was them.
They got a union.
The other guy, like, I'm not getting my dick hard by some guy who's looking for a weapon. It's just it's weird that they can do that. But if you go through the airport, right? Like, airports, we've decided, are places where terror exists, right? So you have like I have TSA pre,
me
and
too.
I have I'm a global entry guy,
and all of
and
that.
I have clear. Yeah. So Clear's the best.
Clear is the best where it works.
Yeah.
Where it works.
Where they have it, rather.
Where they have it.
Yeah, you just put your fingers down. Bam. It's got a picture of you, go right through. It takes 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But that's just a place where we've decided you have terror, right? And now, are we going to decide that you have terror everywhere?
No, I don't think so. I mean, for one thing, I'm not buying into the hotel argument. Like, there's a bigger issue here than the hotels. And the issue is the weapons and what can we do about the proliferation.
Say it.
Proliferation of weapons. Proliferation of weapons. Yes, sorry about that.
It's early.
You start a word and you go, I'm too deep into this word. I got too deep into a word. Now there's no backing out. All the damn weapons. No, but that's the issue. The thing about hotels, though, and this being the United States, the privacy issue is huge, right? Your hotel room is basically your home away from home. When do you what are the privacy rules of checking what you bring into a hotel, what's in your hotel room? Remember the stoplight cameras, right?
Yes.
And they got sued, and people got in trouble because they got that picture taken, and the wrong person was in their car, right? That chick wasn't his wife.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, or this guy wasn't his husband. One guy sued because the picture was taken, the woman wasn't his wife. They send the ticket to your house, right?
Bam.
He got into exactly. And he won the suit in the sense that there's a level of privacy that's expected in your car.
Let me stop you there. Do you understand why it's illegal, though? Because it's a third party. It's not actually even the government.
Right.
They farmed it off.
Right.
You have some other company that's sending you a ticket and charging you money.
Right.
For that. And everybody was like, well, what do you guys are you're hiring people to do this?
Yeah, they're commissioning a place to write tickets. But what they had to do, they had to re-aim the cameras to only hit the license plate.
But that's not true, because I got one the other day.
You got, and you showed you?
Yeah, they sent me a picture of me smiling.
Well, it's not supposed to.
I got a little cocky, tried to go right on red, and it flashed me.
But the point being, in your hotel room, like, there's an expectation of privacy.
Right.
And where is that line drawn? The other big difference...
Well, it's going to have to be drawn in Vegas, because people get freaky in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
The other big difference, and I'll tell you a Vegas story about that is great, I heard, but The other big difference is when you're on an airplane, you're trapped in that airplane. When you're in a hotel, like, you can run. You know what I mean? You can run down the stairs.
Can you really though? I mean,
you compared to being in an airplane.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a valid comparison. Honestly, I mean, it's like you're still in a box. You're still in this big building.
You're in a confined space, but I think it's easier to escape. Now, the thing about Vegas, this guy told me, who was a security guy, he said the thing about the cameras is you see who's with who. And there was one particular guy he kept bringing transgender hookers to his room, and like they knew who he was. He was like a famous guy, and they were like, "Yeah, we could destroy this guy if we wanted." We got, because they got cameras everywhere in Vegas, right? They know who's coming upstairs to your room. They know what room they're going to.
So he's getting like super obvious transgender ones, like
like the giant ones,
football player dudes, size 18 feet, guys built like you, with dresses on.
So, so I had to give up that hobby. No, I'm kidding. That's the only thing from this podcast that's going to go out viral. Yeah. And we knew it.
Well, here's another thing that is a giant issue that I haven't heard discussed at all. Mental health. I mean, this is really what this is all about. This is not, I mean, this is a gun issue in the sense that he used guns. But then is it a truck issue in Nice, France, where that guy just drove into those people? I mean, is it, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to kill people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to see more of these fucked up ways in the future.
Yep.
But the real issue is a mental health issue. Now, this guy's dad was a psychopath. He was a serial bank robber. He spent 8 years on the FBI's most wanted list. Here's the question, right? Like, is that genetic? Like, does that transfer over? Like, how does that work?
It could be genetic, or it could be that psychological thing of, I want to outdo my dad, right? This guy could be, I mean, no, this guy's a millionaire, right, and so on. Like, so he's obviously a high achiever, but he could have that hole. I'm not kidding. He could have that hole where he always wanted to do something bigger than his dad, or he wanted some approval, you know what I mean? Some weird kind of approval thing.
Yeah, I guess that's just speculation, right? I mean,
you could speculate, a bunch. Our mental health issue, just the health issue in this country, that's a show unto itself, right? We don't take care of ourselves. We don't take care of people. We don't provide for the mental health problem. You look downtown in any city in America, wandering the streets, homeless. You got schizophrenics and all kind of people, and God forbid they got weapons. Who know? Like, you talk about the other ways. I'm sure there are attacks that we just don't hear about. Where some guy goes nuts with a knife or a broken bottle
happens all the time.
Whatever else.
I mean, that's one of the big things that happens in places that have stricter gun control. And the argument would be that, hey, that's safer for the people. It's easier to handle. There's, more things that you can do. Some guy with a machine gun gunning down all these people. But again, gun control is not really going to help this. This guy was using illegal guns. I mean, the issue at this point is that there's so many guns out there. Like, even if you made guns illegal, are we going to sweep? Are we going to go house to house? And if we do sweep and go house to house, man, people are going to resist that. Because for every one of these psychopaths that winds up shooting people and gunning someone down, there's going to be genuine, normal people that want a gun to protect their family. Maybe they live in a sketchy neighborhood, and then all of a sudden the government comes along and says, well, now it's illegal for you to possess that gun. Well, then who has guns?
Well,
people who are already criminals.
See, I think the solution is in between, and I think this is another one where we get, this is a problem we have, and I can't even say when it started, when you have the two sides and it's either or. So it's either, no gun regulations or far too many gun regulations, and I think the solution's somewhere in between. In my opinion, it's always been like, why can't we treat them like cars? Like, when you buy a car, you register the car, right? So the government knows, like, Joe has this car, right? And then when you have to have insurance in case something goes wrong with the car and you hurt somebody, and then if you sell the car to me, you tell the government, hey, I just sold the car to Alonzo. I'm no longer liable for this car. Alonzo's liable for this car. Right. And I've always thought that would be the level of common sense gun registration.
Well, here's another one that goes along with that. With guns, you don't really have to know how to use them. This is really one of the really fucked up things about guns.
Unfortunately.
If you drive a car, you have to take tests. You have to pass. You have to understand the registration, the rules rather. I mean, you have to go, and a guy has to sit next to you. You have to go through a driver's test.
And I don't see why we can't do that with guns.
You should absolutely
where you have to go
guns.
to a range and show like the safety of using a gun and how to shoot it.
Yeah.
I don't see why we can't do that. And even if your family teaches you, right? They say like in a lot of places you grow up with guns, and as a kid your dad teaches you. Well, if your dad teaches you to drive, you still have to go to DMV and take the test. So it's like your dad, your mom, whoever, your uncle could teach you to shoot, but you still there should be some level of testing to get an idea. Because we have, just a couple of weeks ago, where you had a 4-year-old in Florida who was looking in their grandmother's purse for candy and shot themselves. And it's like that, Grandma, there's a safety issue with the gun. Like, you don't tell the kid to go get some candy when you know you have a gun.
I think there's a nutty number, like 21 people a year are killed in this country by armed toddlers.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Find out what the number is. I think it's 21 people are shot to death by babies.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and you brought it up, like how, okay, if we didn't have guns, then they'd be killing, with knives or clubs or something. Like, just that idea that we have to have that discussion, like, well, what weapon are the mass killers going to use? That in itself is insane.
Right.
just the fact that we're like, yeah, we're going to have these mass killers. We got to have them working with different weapons. I don't know on the mental health. I'm not even going to pretend to have the expertise to talk about what it is, but it's an issue that we don't spend money on. It's an issue not covered by a lot of insurance. A lot of insurance doesn't cover any kind of mental health care.
Here's the thing. Even if it does cover, I mean, a giant percentage of the people that commit these giant mass shootings are either on psychoactive medication or are having withdrawals from psychoactive medication. Right. So even if your insurance covers it, even if you're medicated by a doctor, there's a dissociative quality apparently with a lot of these antidepressants and antipsychotic medications that people take, that with the right combination of biology, circumstances, genetics, whatever it is, people just can snap and they don't have an issue. I mean, what are the numbers of people that are on that stuff? A giant number.
Right.
What are the numbers of people that actually wind up and go and do shootings? Much, 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 much smaller number. But it's enough that if it happens once a year, like Orlando last year and then this year in Vegas, I mean, what the fuck? And again, we don't know why this guy did this. We have no idea if he was on anything. But what the fuck is it that we have to do to stop this stuff from happening?
Well, I'm sure there are scientists who study it and all, but I can't imagine you can predict it.
People are getting shot by toddlers on a weekly basis this year. Jesus Christ.
13
How many people?
Toddlers killed themselves, 18 more injured themselves, 10 injured other people, 2 killed other people. That was from 2015.
Toddlers have shot at least 23 people this year. Jesus fucking Christ.
May of 2016, so only 5 months.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we cannot match that with an argument of toddler drivers having run over people.
No. Well, irresponsible gun owners.
That is, and again, that gets back to what you're saying, the education, like learn to own a gun safely.
Yeah.
To keep it somewhere where a toddler's not going to get to it.
Well, everything dangerous safely, everything.
And isn't it funny how, we do kid-proof a house? Mm-hmm. Like they have the plastic things that go into the electrical sockets and the poison and this and that. What about the gun? Throw it in the candy drawer.
Put it under the pillow. Kid's never going to look there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of responsible gun owners.
And I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I'm laughing at the ridiculous of it. And that is true. And I think the vast majority of gun owners are responsible. It is another group that's painted with the broad brush, right? That the few gun nuts, crazy, they paint every NRA member as being one of them.
Yeah.
And that isn't true. Like I say, I know people who like guns and they're not that.
Right.
But the people who are not that have to accept the fact that there is a population that is that. You know what I mean? You can't say that they don't exist because they do exist. So a big part of this, I think, like any other issue, Joe, we got to start telling each other the truth. You know what I mean?
About
like
what?
About these issues. Like we everyone has their side, right, or their tribe or their team, and they refuse to believe any truth, any negative truth about their team or whatever. You know what I mean? Like to say, well, like we were saying, like gun owners. Okay, so there's responsible gun owners, and then there's a few I'll just use the term gun nuts. And the responsible gun owners have to accept the fact that there are some gun nuts, right? With the police, the vast majority of police are good. But the good police have to say, yeah, there are some bad cops too. Right. You know what I mean? Like within any tribe, we're comics. We know there are some bad comics. I don't know if you know it, Joe, but I'm going to put it out there.
I heard of a few.
But until we do that, we can never have a real discussion, right? Because everybody just suddenly circles the wagons around their herd and like, no, not me. Right. It's like, no, we're not saying all of you are bad.
Right.
But let's admit within your group there is bad, so we can work on that. You know?
I've seen some tweets from some NRA supporters the last day and a half that have just fucking stunned me. Where just shut the fuck up, man.
Right.
Just realize where the state of all this is right now, and shut the fuck up. And by the way, there's a video that's going around that somebody's put up about me talking about gun control. It is not a recent video. I don't know when it's from, but people are putting it up now about me destroying the gun control argument. It would be very insensitive for me to do that and to put that up right now, and I didn't. It had nothing to do with. I don't know when it was. I think it was from a year or so ago, but the idea that these people, these NRA supporters, would go and tweet these pro-gun messages and get crazy with it now is exactly what you're saying. They're digging their heels in. They're supporting their team.
Yeah, and as many people have been saying, and it is a sad truth. Look, if we didn't wake up after Sandy Hook, then if when 21 kids were shot, and people denied that it happened. Oh, that didn't even happen, and all that.
That's the crazy one. I mean, they're doing that now. I mean? People are calling this a false flag.
Right. So if that didn't wake us up, then 58 people at a music concert. I hate to say it, but it's like it's not going to wake us up. I have a thing.
Well, wait a minute. What does waking us up mean? I mean,
wake us up to the point of take some action.
Well, what's the action? President Alonzo, what would you do?
Well, to start with, we have to have the conversation. We have to have the conversation about just like we just talked about. There is it is necessary to change our gun laws. Yeah. Our gun laws are too lax. That's the first thing. Then what we need to do, we need to come up with a system just like we have with cars or anything else dangerous, where you have to be trained to use it. You have to register whatever it is with the government, and you have to have liability insurance, and that information transfers. Like the big loophole is the gun shows, right? Where you go to the gun show and you could just sell a gun to another person. You can do that. Is that
still the case?
Yeah, in a lot of states, that's still the case. You can do that with a car, right? I can sell you my car through Craigslist, but I'm still going to go put in that liability thing. Otherwise, I'm liable for what you do with the car. Like I protect myself by reporting it, even though I sold it to you party to party. Yeah. So if I'm in charge, we're gonna add those things. We're gonna get a handle on these guns. We're gonna start tracking how many they are, where they are. We're gonna collect them. I think it was Australia and some other places that had those things where, look,
Australia,
if you own an illegal weapon, like a fully automatic weapon or whatever makes it illegal, you can turn it in. Maybe there's payment, or maybe it's just no questions asked. Just turn it in, and we'll destroy it.
Well, what happened in Australia is they had a mass shooting, and then they put their foot down, and they said no more.
Right, Australia just banned them altogether.
Well, they didn't totally ban them. You could still use a rifle to hunt, but the way we have this sort of fast and loose, there's very few countries in the world that have this kind of fast and loose gun policy. I think.
Yeah, we still have the Wild West mentality.
Well, and we have a freedom mentality, which Bill O'Reilly had a post today where he's talking about that this is the cost of freedom.
The cost of freedom, yeah.
Like, you fucking crazy.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Crazy old dickhead.
And I give you an example, Joe. Like, I grew up in New York City. Like, guns have been illegal in New York City for a long time. Now, there are guns in New York City, but not as many as people think, because what happens is when you make it illegal, then the average person, they don't go out of their way to get a gun. They're like, no, I'm not going to have one. Yeah, a criminal is going to have guns. Yes, criminals are always going to have guns. But, the thing about the good guy shooting the bad guy, it doesn't happen that often. And my personal belief on this is because in that moment, it takes a lot to shoot somebody.
It just happened the other day. Happened the other day.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
There was an active shooter somewhere that was taken out by a good guy gun owner. It can happen. You're right. It doesn't happen everywhere all the time, but it can happen.
And a lot of people get their guns stolen or taken away because in that moment, they can't use it.
Sure.
And the criminal, he ain't got nothing to lose. He's already a criminal. You know what I mean?
Well, he's also probably used to violence.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not used to violence. There's a lot of soft people out there that they don't know what to do if the shit hits the fan in any way, shape, or form. They just don't know how to handle pressure.
Yeah, and it's, that happens. And then they buy a gun to protect themselves, but they're in no way equipped to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. They're hoping that they can use it or to scare people off or something like that, but most likely, they're not going to be able to do it. But, then there's people that say, well, that's them. I want the option because I will be able to figure it out, because I'm not a pussy or I'm not a dummy.
Then there's a legal way to get one. Then, you do what it takes to, and you register it. And again, most gun owners that I know, and I may be wrong because it's not like I'm deep in the gun culture, so I'm not speaking with that expertise. I'm just talking about of the people I know who have guns, who are into guns and shooting. I only have one friend who's like, doesn't want to register his guns or anything like that. Most of them I know they're fine with having their gun registered.
What is the one friend's argument?
I couldn't even tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. I love him.
He's just crazy.
But when it comes to guns, he's got some of that paranoia. He's got some of that, the government's out to get me.
The government.
Paranoia. And then, his thing with, we were talking about, and I know it's the wrong term, but it's the common term, assault type weapons, right? And he said what if there's a home invasion? That's what they use. And I was like, ain't nobody invading your broke ass home. You ain't,
unless they want to get your guns.
You know what I mean? You got, you're an average American with a 2-bedroom in the suburbs. Ain't nobody invading your shit.
Right.
You ain't got a safe. If you were selling crack, you might want to worry. You might have some cash around the house. Even if you were a good marijuana distributor, there'd be a bunch of cash you're not allowed to put in the bank. But you, ain't nobody invading your house.
Yeah, everybody wants to be John Wick.
Yeah.
Fucking take out a whole crew of people breaking into your house, flipping people over staircases and
John
shit.
Wick's badass. I love John Wick. I ain't gonna lie.
Those fucking movies.
I ain't gonna lie. I love John Wick.
My all-time favorite.
And nobody's
shoot 'em
sitting
up.
around talking about John Wick. When you meet John Wick, your shit is over.
That's Keanu Reeves' best role.
Oh man,
Fuck the Matrix.
That scene when the gangster calls John Leguizamo and is like, "Did you hit my son?" Yeah. Why? He stole John Wick's car and killed his dog. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Both of them are great. I enjoyed the second one too. They're just silly, preposterous, unrealistic, but awesome.
Right.
I mean, if you like that sort of John Woo type violence, just off the charts, ridiculous gun violence, but it's cartoonish and comic book like.
Right. It's not real, and Keanu plays it. He's so good at it. Like he plays it perfectly. But just like any other movie, the bad guys can't shoot.
Right.
Right? So there's 25 guys shooting at him.
Right.
One of them might wing him.
Right, wing him, graze his shoulder. They always get like shot in the shoulder a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what the argument is for not registering guns that makes sense. Because, I mean, unless you just want a world where everybody's just packing. Like, there's like a few states where you have concealed and even open carry that you're just allowed. You're just allowed to have a gun on your hip and just walk everywhere.
Or they have the test, but it's like it used to be here with traffic school, where you just pay the guy and he gives you the certificate that you went, or like they do these tests for carrying concealed, but it's like you can do it online. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
So
well, you can do in Texas. You could do your hunting safety certificate online.
Yeah,
there's a couple places where you can do. Most of the places you have to go, and for a hunter safety certificate, you have to sit down through. I think it's 8 hours of class and go through all the stuff. Then you have to take a test, and you have to understand things. You have to know.
Does it transfer from one state to the other? Like, in other words, if you're licensed to hunt in Texas, that's good for some other states?
Yeah, if you have a hunter safety certificate in Texas, it's good, I think, in almost every state. But, I mean, that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have some knowledge of, what's safety, and it's called a hunter safety thing.
Right.
It's not even about knowing how to hunt. It's just about knowing how to not get shot or shoot yourself or shoot someone else, and how a gun works, and how all various weapons, bows and arrows, crossbows and stuff work. You don't have to do any of that to get a gun, though. I mean, if you just had to go through an 8-hour course to get a gun, how many less people would have guns? If you had to pass an 8-hour course to legally have a gun, how many fewer people would have guns? It would probably be like 30% of the people that have guns now.
Well, and also, they're saying this is the wrong time to politicize it, which, it is. It's time for a politician to stand up to the NRA. It's not politicized because every politician is afraid to say we need to register all the guns because the NRA is going to attack, their whole lobby machine. But it's going to take a politician who has the balls to say, hey, wait a minute, I can get as many people following me, in other words, challenge the NRA and get as many people backing you as the NRA has.
The best way to do it for these people is to not say shit. When they don't say shit, then they don't get the NRA attacking them. Right,
that's what I'm saying. They're afraid. Yeah. They're afraid right now. The politicians who know better, who absolutely know better, who know that our current situation is ridiculous and our system is broken in the gun laws, none of them will stand up and say it.
Yeah. No,
except the ones that the NRA already hates.
Right.
Who
like
have
Bernie Sanders type characters.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the team thing, right?
Yeah.
They're supporting the left, they're supporting the right, everybody meets in the middle, and they yell at each other.
Yeah, and this is, this is not a left-right. This is just it's another one of those common sense issues where we don't have common sense. Like I joke sometimes on stage, like I'm going to Canada next week, I'm doing a tour. And I had this joke, like, can you explain it to a Canadian? Like, that should be the test for what's sane. Can you explain it to a Canadian? I was doing it regarding healthcare. Like, try to explain to a Canadian why we've demonized healthcare, why we want to shut down the health. And you
what do you mean by demonized?
Meaning that they're anti-Obamacare. So rather than look for a compromise or fix the system, just shut it down because it's called Obamacare. Like the anger at the name. You like that famous night that Kimmel did where it was like, are you against Obamacare? I hate Obamacare. What about the Affordable Care Act? Oh, I like that.
It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he did a man on the street, and that's what, so many people were, and that's what I mean by demonize. You attach this name to it, so people just are anti just based on that without looking at any, rather than saying, okay, like maybe this part of like the no pre-existing part of the healthcare plan, that's a good idea, so we're going to keep that. But maybe the cost of this is a bad idea, so we're going to change that, you know what I mean? And working to fix it. The gun issue is the same way. There's certain freedoms that I understand, and the right to bear arms and so on. And again, it was written in a completely different time. So we need to update that right, taking into account everything that we deal with today.
Well, one step at a time. If you're going to talk about the Affordable Care Act, if you're going to talk about health care at all, you got to talk about what are the real issues, like what are the root causes of diseases. And a big part of the root causes of diseases are how people eat in this country.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and if people eat poorly and they consume a lot of refined carbohydrates and a lot of processed sugars, and they, their diet is filled with bullshit, and they're drinking every day and they're smoking cigarettes, like, man, if you want to make those choices with your life, you are going to get diseases. It's almost inexorable.
Right. And then you start battling the corporations and, big food and stuff like that because, why is it so much cheaper to eat poorly?
But just think, that's because it's cheaper to produce. But think about the actual physical numbers of people that die every year from heart disease.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fucking stunning.
Because, look at the amount of fast food we consume.
Yeah.
And it's like fast food isn't evil. There's times when you're on the run and you want to grab a burger, you want to grab fries, or it's just good.
Your whole diet.
That's okay, but it can't be the only thing you eat. All the time.
Well, you saw Super Size Me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it ain't good.
No.
It's not good to eat just constant bullshit.
Right. Well, you can't eat that much salt and grease all the time. and not have, anything you do, there's a penalty for it.
Salt's not bad for you. You know that?
But in excess.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. Yeah. That's that whole thing about salt being bad for you and salt raising high blood pressure and all that stuff. That was kind of concocted by one doctor and ran with. There's really very little evidence about that.
I don't know. I'm black, Joe. They told us not to eat salt.
Yeah, I know. They tell you not to eat fatty foods either. But meanwhile, it's refined carbohydrates that are the real issue, apparently.
Yeah, the sugar, and everything is in sugar, and we are addicted. We are sugar addicts.
Sugar, corn syrup. I mean, and then there's also like all these studies that talk to you about red meat. But when you look at the studies about red meat and you look at the criticisms of studies, like people that eat red meat get more cancer. Well, the real criticism of those studies is what are you eating with the red meat?
Right.
Because are you eating like lean, like grass-fed bison with like asparagus and broccoli? I bet you're pretty fucking healthy if you're doing that. The real issue is, are you eating burgers? They don't differentiate between the two. When you talk about people that eat red meat 5 times a week and the correlation between cancer, they're literally not even taking into consideration what they eat with that red meat. Are they eating with white bread? Are they eating with a sugary soda?
This again, Joe, this is what we're talking about, the same thing, because it's like the common sense argument is eliminated because the common sense argument's quiet. So you have the yelling argument of the meat lobby versus whoever's the anti-meat people. And so, you know what I mean? And the common sense is in between. Like you said, there's healthy ways to eat meat, or maybe you don't eat it with every meal or not every day. You mix it up or something like that.
It's not meat.
But
meat is something that human beings have eaten forever.
But when I say healthy ways to eat meat,
refined carbohydrates, sugars.
Say healthy ways to eat meat, I mean what you're saying. What do you eat around it? How is it prepared?
Right.
And so on. That can make it. That can be the difference between healthy and unhealthy. Chicken, is supposed to be good for you, but fried chicken, deep fried chicken that's been sitting in the grease for X number of hours waiting for you to come pick it up.
Covered in flour.
Right, exactly. Is not, that is not a healthy way to eat chicken.
Speaking of chicken,
delicious.
Supersize Me Too. You'll never look at chicken the same way again. He's doing this.
Take that down. Don't ruin chicken for me.
You know what I have an issue with him, though? He did a show where he was, he did like 30 days. Was that the name of his show? And one of the things that he did was on hormone replacement surgery or hormone replacement, like testosterone replacement and things along those lines. But I know for a fact that the producers tried to go to legitimate doctors, and the doctors turned them down because they said this is not how you do it. You don't do anything like that over 30 days.
Well,
hold on a second. So what he did for that show is he went to a quack, and this quack shot him up with testosterone. Not him, the guy on the show that he used as a study case. And they shot this guy up with testosterone. The guy started getting aggressive and yelling at his kids, and his wife was like, I like you, chubby. I'm chubby. We have a chubby family. I'm like, this is the dumbest fucking example of the science behind manipulating your hormones. Like, the way you're supposed to do it is first address your diet. Number one, you take your diet into consideration. Like, what are you eating? I mean, are you getting these gigantic insulin spikes all day? Like, your hormone levels are completely dependent upon what kind of food you consume. So what they would do in a healthy doctor, the doctor that I was using, this I don't want to say his name, but what he would do is, for like the first couple months, the first thing you would do is change your diet. The first thing you would do is don't eat late at night. The first thing you would do is eat healthy food, and they would literally check your blood nutrition levels and say, well, you're low on niacin, you're low on vitamin D, you're low on vitamin B. You're going to add these to your diet. Let's see what your hormone levels are like then. Oh, look, we have this big spike. Now we have a healthy baseline. Now we've done this for 4 or 5 months. Now we know where you're at and what you need. And they didn't do that. They just shot him up with some shit. Mm-hmm. So that guy in his show, I've had problems with him ever since then. I'm like, why would you, like, that's sensationalism. That's bullshit. Like, what you've done is you put together a show where you've had a terrible representation of something that millions of people engage in, hormone replacement.
Well, even in Supersize Me, even if you ate at McDonald's, you wouldn't eat as much as he did.
Right.
You wouldn't supersize every meal and, have
Well, that was the deal, though. He said if they offered him supersize, he was going to say
yes. But they always do.
Yeah.
They always offer to upsize you.
Yeah. But then I've heard people also say they've done the same thing. They've done that Supersize Me diet and tried it for 30 days, and they didn't have nearly the negative responses. And they thought that they might have sensationalized that as well.
They probably did. I mean, it's TV, right?
But
you got to sensationalize
in that case.
And and it's also, you talk about hormones and things like that. Different people react to things different ways.
Sure.
Their bodies, some people's body, and it drives you crazy, right? That person that eats junk food all the time but has this crazy metabolism and they never gain weight.
Twinkie diet helps nutrition professor lose 27 pounds. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. See?
What is pull this up?
He did it just to prove the calories in, calories out thing, but there's a caveat in this too that says it doesn't have any hormone stuff.
Go down. Let me see it from the top. For 10 weeks, Mark Howe, professor of nutrition at Kansas State University, ate one of these sugary cakeettes every 3 hours instead of meals. To add variety to his steady stream of Hostess and Little Debbie snacks, Howe munched on Doritos chips, sugary cereal, and Oreos too. His premise that in weight loss, pure calorie counting is what matters most, not the nutritional value of the food. The premise held up. On his convenience store diet, he shed 27 pounds in 2 months. But here's the thing. What is his body fat? Like, what's his body composition? Stop. Go back. See, like, he shed 27 pounds in 2 months. That doesn't mean anything. Right. Like, if you lost all of your muscle and gained fat and you lost... I mean, you got to understand, like, if you're not taking in any protein, your body's not going to be able to maintain muscle mass. Now, if your body's not going to maintain muscle mass, you're going to have less. See, his body fat mass index went from 28.8, considered overweight, to 24.9, which is normal. He now weighs 174 pounds. His bad cholesterol, LDL, dropped 20%, and his good cholesterol, HDL, increased by 20%. He reduced the level of triglycerides, which are a form of fat, by 39%. That's where the head scratching comes from, Hobbs says. What does that mean? Does it mean I'm healthier? Does it mean how we define health from a biological standpoint, that we're missing something? Despite his temporary success, he does not recommend.
Look at the next. Look, 2/3 of his total intake. Read that one.
Yeah. He also. Oh, wait a minute. He also took a multivitamin pill and drank a protein shake daily, and he ate vegetables. Typically, a can of green beans or 3 or 4 celery stalks. All right. Well, that's a stupid study.
Right, because then he's replacing the protein and vitamins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not living on Twinkies and
that's bullshit.
And Doritos.
Yeah, if you just did that without the protein and without the vitamins,
it would have been a different result.
But people love. I mean, that's why we're reading it, right? We're reading it because he got a sensational result.
And the way it was written. The sensational part was the first part of the article.
Of course.
And you had to go way down before you got to the part about eating vegetables and drinking a protein shake.
Yeah. Don't eat Little Debbie's cakes all day, folks. Don't do that. You'll get fucked up.
If you've learned anything today, you cannot live on Twinkies.
But every now and then, have a fucking Twinkie. I believe everything in moderation, including moderation. That's what I believe. I think that's an Oscar Wilde quote.
Yeah.
I think it's a great quote because I think that's good. I mean... Even just have some bullshit every now and then. Have a fucking Big Mac.
That people have the cheat day or whatever. And you got to, it's because you're human.
Yeah.
You're human and you're going to have it. And some of it's delicious.
It's fun. It's fun to eat a waffle smothered in maple syrup. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun every now and then to go to fucking Waffle House. You ever go to Waffle Houses on the road?
Of course. I've worked the South. What are you kidding?
Great.
Waffle House. Have you ever been to Waffle House when they're on both sides of the freeway? So no matter which ramp you come off, you don't have to turn.
Isn't that funny that the South has Waffle Houses? It's like the West has In-N-Out, the South has Waffle House. They put in an In-N-Out in Dallas, and they had lines around the block for days. For days, people had never seen a fucking cheeseburger before.
And you know who was mad?
Who?
Whataburger.
Oh yeah,
because that's Texas's burger chain, and
step your fucking game up.
In-N-Out came in, and they were like, "Wait a minute, everyone's lining up for that California liberal burger."
Yeah, well, if you're the unknown comic and you're playing at a club and Chris Rock is at the fucking arena next door, you can't get pissed off. Someone's got a better product than you.
Let me speak from experience to that, Joe. Let me speak from experience. I was booked at what's it called, the Club 29 or whatever, that casino just past Palm Springs. I don't know if you've ever worked out there.
No.
But anyway, it's one of those big Indian casinos, and I had never worked this place before. So I'm booked to work the comedy club inside. Guess who's working the arena behind the hotel?
Kevin Hart.
Chris Rock.
And
I was like, even I want to go to the Chris Rock show. You know what I mean? It's like really, your idea is to put me and Chris on it the same week? You couldn't think of some other comic?
When was this?
It was about 4 years ago. But it was just one of those things, his pictures on the gambling tables, how they do that and everything. And I was like, I want to go to the Chris Rock show. Like, there were people at my show. I'm like, why are you here? Why don't we all just go out and watch Chris?
Yeah. Whataburger, step your game up. Their burgers are okay. Whataburger's okay.
Whataburger's okay. In-N-Out better.
In-N-Out is way better. I'll tell you what, though. Five Guys fucks with In-N-Out.
Five Guys got game.
You got Five Guys right next to In-N-Out. You go, Five Guys has fucking jalapenos. They put jalapenos on those burgers. They have fries.
You got
like
Five
real
Guys.
Fries.
You got Five Guys next to In-N-Out across the street from Whataburger. You got America, damn it.
Yeah, you got America. You know what Five Guys fucks up? They fuck up where they don't have shakes. They don't go with shakes. They don't have shakes.
No.
But their burgers are goddamn good.
Burgers are good. Their fries are good.
Fries are good.
A lot of potatoes.
Yeah, their potatoes are better.
Yeah.
They seem to have a better idea of what a fry is. Mm-hmm. And then they have Cajun fries.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, no, Five Guys. Well, that's why they're in the game. What about
they're in the game. That
what
to
about
me is a
Steak
dead
and
heat.
Shake? What do you think of that?
Steak and Shake could suck my dick. I said it right here.
Right the peanuts. The peanuts at Five Guys.
Peanuts.
How do you feel about those?
Yeah, peanuts.
They're there if you're that hungry.
Right.
If you're that hungry, there's nothing wrong with peanuts unless you got a peanut allergy, of course. Which is another thing we're talking about, how different people react to different things. The peanut allergy is always like the best argument.
This is the new thing, and I've only heard this recently. Actually, this year is the first time I heard it, where they're like, you can't have anything peanut related on an airplane because a passenger has a severe peanut allergy.
Yeah. Well, some people...
I haven't heard that until this year.
Well, I've heard it. When you crack open a peanut, you know that dust that kind of goes in the air? That shit kills people.
Wow.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Imagine if you didn't like somebody, you got right up to them and just like some CIA shit, just crack it in their face.
That would be some CSI shit. Like, they'd have to figure out how you killed him, who opened the peanut.
Yeah, I was thinking this is a terrible thought, but I was thinking this about Tom Petty. I was like, I wonder if Tom Petty heard the news about Vegas and had a fucking heart attack. Can you imagine if that guy killed Tom Petty from a distance?
Could happen.
How did Tom Petty have a heart attack? Did he know about, I mean, what time was his heart attack? Was it Sunday night or was it Sunday day?
And how old was he?
66, man. That ain't old.
That's not real old.
Yeah, 66. Stallone was still fucking kicking ass in action movies.
Yeah.
He still is.
I think Liam Neeson was taken the second time at 66, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, if I'm a thug, I can't let a 70-year-old whip my ass. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain age where it's like, no, man, I don't care how long you've been fighting, what training you have.
Right.
Listen, old man, I'm in my thug prime.
Who's like the oldest guy who legitimately makes sense as like a stone cold killer in a movie? Was it Bronson? Well, Charles Bronson in Death Wish, he was already like fat Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
He got like the chubby face and he couldn't take his suit off. Whereas like you go back to like the Hard Times Bronson, who was like 50.
Right. He was in his 50s.
Shredded.
I'm trying to think, is anyone in their 60s legitimate to whip your ass, like physically, not shoot you, but
George Foreman will fuck you up.
Yeah, well, he's a puncher.
Yeah,
right?
George Foreman's probably 60 years old, and I bet he'll fuck
Foreman
people
ain't,
He's gonna fight Steven Seagal.
What?
Did he call it Steven Seagal? Did you see that?
Who?
George Foreman.
What?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, after Seagal's craziness.
What was Seagal talking crazy
said, like,
about?
You can do anything you want, 10 rounds, something like that. Hold on.
That is so ridiculously stupid of Steven Seagal, because all he'd have to do is pour water on his head, and that black shit would just run down into his eyes, and he wouldn't be able to see. What does it say? George Foreman just challenged Steven Seagal to a no-holds-barred fight. Boy, that would be a goddamn disaster. 68-year-old boxing legend used Twitter to challenge 65-year-old action movie star
I'm betting on
to a
Foreman.
10-round fight.
I'd bet a 68-year-old Foreman.
I'd bet every fucking
a
penny.
68-year-old Foreman versus 65-year-old Seagal? Yeah, I'd bet on Foreman.
Challenge you one-on-one. I use boxing. You can use whatever. 10 rounds in Vegas. No weapons. Hand-to-hand only. That would be a fucking disaster. First of all, George Foreman is so big that he had this shell defense that he adopted later in his career.
Yeah, where he would
like
curl
this.
up, right.
And he was so big. There was so much arm there.
You couldn't hit him.
You're not hitting anything. You hit his stomach. Good luck with all that. You're not going to hurt him to the body. And then he's got these hands that are literally like canned hams.
Yep.
And he just thump. He would just jab people into a coma.
Did you see that guy? I think he's playing for the Milwaukee Bucks. His hands surround the basketball. Did you see that? He literally it's like a softball in his hands.
There's people that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, go back to like Jack Johnson, who was a giant when he won the heavyweight championship. He's only 6'2".
Right.
He was not even a big guy. You know.
My big hand moment. Earlier this year, I did a show, and
whoa! Look at that guy's hands.
Yeah, show him around the basketball if you have that picture.
That looks cartoonish. That doesn't even look real. Good. That guy must have a dick like a palm tree.
I'm telling you.
Jesus Christ!
Holy shit! It's 2 feet from his middle finger to the base of his hand.
That's insane.
Is that inches?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or centimeters? Those look centimeters, maybe.
Was it?
I met Jerry Rice. And my hand,
they're fucking with us with the centimeters.
My
Goddamn
hand
communists.
is the same size as Jerry Rice's. So
yeah, that makes sense.
So I got that going.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah, there it is. Look at that.
Well, how old is he then?
He's in high school then, it looks like.
Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
Wow.
He's a big freak. They call him the Greek freak.
Yeah, the Greek freak. He's amazing.
Is he Greek?
Yeah, Giannis I can't say Antetokounmpo.
Whoa, that's a name.
Yeah. Oh, and he's a hell of a ball player.
Look at that name.
Yeah. That's why they call him the Greek freak.
How do
you say that?
Antetokounmpo?
Antetokounmpo. So he's from Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, what if that guy gets a hold of, like, a Gabrielle Reese? Well, she's already married, but, someone along those lines, a large woman. And has a large, like the woman from Game of Thrones, that giant bitch, gets a hold of her, shoots some super sperm in there, makes some giant babies.
The next generation's going to be a hell of a.
I mean, they've been doing that with animals forever.
What sport would that kid go into?
Any sport he wants.
Yeah,
whatever fucking sport he wants. Everybody get out of the way.
What about Aaron Judge, 6'7", 280, playing baseball? You see how the bat looks in his hand? The bat looks like a little twig, like he's swinging a kid's bat.
Well, you're seeing that, though. That's one thing that's interesting. Like, that guy in the past might have gone into football.
Yeah.
But now guys are looking at football and like, fuck that.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him at all. There's guys that are retiring at 24, 25 years old.
Why am I going to have a 3-year career with possible concussion damage and everything else when I could play baseball or basketball for 10 years and leave with $100 million?
And just fuck everything that moves.
Yeah.
They did a study on former basketball players, or former football players rather, and 111 players, 110 of them had CTE.
Jeez.
110 out of 111.
Yeah.
There's the guy who was the doctor behind that movie Concussion. He was recently talking about O.J. Simpson because O.J. Simpson was released. And he's like, there's a 100% chance that guy has CTE. Yeah. And they've even said that O.J., if the trial was today, his doctor said that he would introduce CTE as a defense.
As a defense, yeah.
Which is crazy because then you have to say he's guilty. Because the defense is always, I didn't do it.
Until he wrote a book, How I Did It.
Yeah, If I Did It. That was the book.
Yeah, I know. But
and if is in tiny little red marks. And I did it. I watched the Cuba Gooding show last night. The FX show. I'd never seen it.
Oh, you'd never seen it?
The People versus O.J. Simpson.
Oh, it's great. It was a great.
Weird.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah, it's weird to watch, man. Did you revisit everything?
I said
it's like, oof.
The night when the O.J. got out, it's like, just go away.
Yeah.
Just go somewhere. Be quiet. Don't say anything. Play golf and keep your mouth shut.
He can't do that though. He's not going to, and he can't. He's addicted to love.
Yeah.
He's addicted to people liking him, and there's gonna always. If he goes to Florida, there's plenty of fucking stupid people in Florida that'll take him right in.
Yeah, or he's going back to jail. He's going to do something stupid and violate his parole.
Do you think he'll do that though? At 70 years old or whatever he is.
Well, if he does anything other than shut up, he's either going to die or go back to jail. You know what I mean? Like there's no positive that's going to come out of him making public appearances, writing a book, going on a talk show circuit. Like, no, like you're 70 years old. Live out the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever you got. Just live it. There's money somewhere, right? Because Florida, they couldn't take his money. Like, that's pension. Why he moved there. So he's got money somewhere. Just quietly fade away. Let people might recognize you when you go down to play bingo at the home.
Oh, you want to play bingo?
Just wave.
Bang some old bros.
But yeah, I don't think there's any way, there's no positive public appearance.
No.
That OJ could make.
No, the Attorney General, I think it was, Florida, was saying that she didn't want him hopping around her state playing golf, which is, by the way, it's not your state, honey.
Yeah.
Just let you know. It's fucking.
It is. It is in the sense that she's the top cop and she can prosecute him for any made up shit she wants.
Yeah, but you can't do that. That's not America. See, when someone gets a fucking release, right? You're released. You're on parole. You're released from prison. You can't just target someone because they're famous and they've been released. Like you're dealing with 1 million fucking murderers are getting out every day. You're dealing. I'm not 1 million, obviously, but you're dealing with a shit ton of people that were armed robbers and have committed assault and rape. They're getting out all the time.
But again, Joe, you're talking about, and we were talking about this earlier, theoretical versus reality.
Right.
In theory, this is the United States of America, and you have freedoms, and they can't do that to you. In reality, hell yeah, they can do it, because it's like, say, if they follow you around, right? If a cop followed you all day, every day, you would break the law.
You think so?
You don't know how. It might be jaywalking.
I'd hire a driver.
It might be speeding. It might be whatever. You know what I mean? But you would do something that would violate some statute that you didn't know about.
You would.
You might be, well.
Maybe you.
I got that whole driving while black thing going for me.
Well, you're also a crazy motorcycle rider.
That's true. I got that.
I need to ask you this because we brought this up the last time. Who was it on the podcast? We were talking about a bike that you had?
It was with Bert.
I couldn't remember the bike that you had, but you had some crazy big, giant, wide Japanese super bike that was like a cruiser.
It's Triumph. It's called the Triumph Rocket 3.
Is that a Triumph?
Yeah.
That's the one I'm talking about?
It's a 2.3 liter motorcycle.
But it's
so it's the engine is bigger than a lot of car engines, and
I'm
bike
confused
itself.
Then.
The bike itself is
bike.
big.
But this isn't the
That's
bike I'm
not the
talking
one?
about. No. It was from a long time ago, man. It's from like 10 years ago you had a bike. You had this crazy wide bike that was a Japanese bike.
Maybe it was a Suzuki Hayabusa?
No.
It
wasn't one of those like rice rocket bikes.
Was it my Ducati? I had a custom Ducati.
No, it was a Japanese bike.
It was Japanese.
But it was a big-ass cruiser. It was one of those.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about, it's called the Valkyrie Rune. R-U-N-E.
Yes,
yeah.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, that, as a matter of fact, that's what I had before the Triumph Rocket.
Yes.
Right.
I couldn't remember the name of that.
Man, good recall, Joe.
Dude.
Yeah, that bike was one of a kind.
That thing looked like a spaceship, like you were in that Tron movie.
You know what?
That's it.
Yeah.
There it is. That's it.
No, that's not it. No,
that ain't
look
it?
up
No, that's the
Rune.
That's a Triumph.
That's a Valkyrie, but look up R-U-N-E, Rune. Yeah.
So there's a different Valkyrie and there's a Valkyrie Rune?
Yeah, the Valkyrie Rune was a custom version they made.
Was it a Honda?
Yeah, it was a Honda. I think they made it. Yeah, that was it right
that's
there.
It. Yeah. You had that. I remember.
I had that. That bike was bad. Where
did you bring it? Did you bring it to the factory or something?
Yeah.
I saw that thing and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Part of why I got rid of that bike, Joe, I'll be honest, polishing that thing. That thing had more chrome in more places. I'm telling you.
Look at the size of it.
Everything on that bike was chromed.
That's beautiful.
The engine, the entire front end. And I was like, man, I can't spend all day cleaning this thing. It was a great bike, though. Fun bike.
Seems like a bike where if you accidentally laid it down, it would take forever to get that thing back up.
Yeah, it's a heavy bike, about
heavy.
800 pounds.
800 pounds for a bike.
Beautiful. You know who bought a group of those?
Who?
Clooney.
George Clooney?
Clooney bought 6 of them.
Why?
For him and his buddies. Yeah, for him and his buddies to ride. He bought 6 of them.
God damn. Is this you?
No.
I was like, you don't have a fat ass like that.
Nah.
Look how cool that paint job is on that thing.
Yeah,
though.
he did that paint. That's custom paint.
No, do they still make that thing?
No, they only made it for 1 year. It was like a limited release. They did it for 1 year.
It must have been stupid fast.
It was pretty fast. It was pretty fast. For a cruiser, it was very fast.
Now, are those comfortable to ride? Is that like the idea behind them?
It's comfortable.
Because I'm a pussy. I don't fuck with bikes.
Right now, I have an Indian Chieftain, right? Ooh. And this is my first, like, American V-twin kind of cruiser. And I've never been that guy. Like, I've never had a Harley or anything. But I saw this bike at the dealer, and it was just absolutely beautiful. and I rode it, and I guess I'm getting older. There was something about leaning back with my feet forward and the stereo playing, and I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I like this shit. Like, I remember leaning forward, like being a jockey and going fast, and now I'm like, nah. This is me.
You like cruising now?
I like cruising. I like touring. I like going on trips, traveling.
That's it right there?
Yeah,
Ooh,
the red one.
Good.
Up in the top middle.
Ooh, that's
you?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, man, look at that thing.
Yeah, I got it outside. When we're done, I'll show it to you.
And do you, those bags in the
beautiful.
back, do you like keep stuff in those things? What do you keep? Books?
Yeah, you can carry. Yeah,
What do you keep in there? What do you keep in there?
Keep that. And that's what I use for whatever. You know what you keep in there? Her purse.
Wow, that's right.
Because this guy told me that they call those baggers, that style of bike. And he said, man, chicks love baggers. And he ain't kidding. They love it. They love it. But yeah, she can bring her shit.
Back here.
Yep.
Now that's a big cruiser, right? Is that a loud bike?
No, it's not loud. It'll be a little louder next year. I'm going to put pipes on it this winter.
You're getting radical.
But I'm not going crazy like straight pipes that, set off car alarms and no, I just a little bit louder.
Now, when you have a bike like that, like the idea is that like they're slower, right? But they're more comfortable. Is that the idea?
Yeah. You know what that bike is, man? That bike is Sunset Strip and PCH.
Just cruising.
Yeah. That's what
good.
That's what that is. Comfortable, you look good, you got a stereo, and you're just chilling.
Now, when you say you have a stereo, like you can hear it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you're blasting it, so everybody hears it.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It's a little weird. Like, I don't like being that guy when I'm at a light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you're riding along, nobody's really hearing it that much. You're passing people. But yeah, when you're sitting at a light, and I know guys who go with 1,000 watts, and their saddlebag is a speaker. Like they're broadcasting. I don't want to be that guy, but it is kind of nice. Again, this is stuff that I hadn't done until I got this bike, right? But now I'm realizing like this shit ain't bad. If I'm cruising down, Mulholland or PCH or something like that, and I'm listening to music, I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
But how can you hear the music over the sound of the engine? And
the bike's loud enough. The speakers are loud enough.
Wow.
The system's loud enough.
What kind of music you playing?
Mostly jazz. I'm chilling.
Jazz, Jesus.
I'm a jazz guy. Jazz and hip hop. Those are my two.
You really do like jazz? You're one of those people.
Yeah.
You legitimately like it.
I legitimately love jazz, man.
I always assume that jazz is one of those things that like weird dudes put on to pretend to girls that they're into jazz. They're like, oh, he's like so sophisticated. He likes jazz.
There's some jazz that is like that, and I'll admit I had to like learn that level of jazz. Like there's a level of jazz that's like this girl I dated, she would be like, oh, you listen to that sketchy jazz shit. And that's the shit you have to listen to learn, because in the beginning, only other musicians understand it, right? And I know some jazz musicians, and they were breaking it down. But there's a lot of jazz that's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's music played by master musicians. And that's why it's good, because when you listen to a guy like Robert Glasper, who's really hot now, or Herbie Hancock. Like when you listen to Herbie Hancock play a piano, you're like, oh, that's how it's supposed to sound. You know what I mean? Because he just has mastered that instrument. So yeah, I listen to some of that, and it can be. There's times when it's out there and it's meditative and shit like that. But don't get me wrong. You might pass by. I might be cranking Jay-Z.
Right.
I love hip hop, love old school hip hop, the shit I grew up with, the old 80s, 90s.
Do you play music at all?
No.
So a lot of people that are into jazz actually play music.
Yeah, a lot of them are. I think I appreciate it because I have no musical talent. So masters of it fascinate me. And in the last 10 years, I've been doing like these jazz cruises, hosting jazz festivals and this and that. And I found it's really true. Well, you know this because you know musicians too. That thing about every musician wants to be a comic and every comic wants to be a musician. I definitely have this mutual admiration thing with jazz artists. Like, man, I wish I could play that. And they're like, man, I wish I was funny.
Yeah. Well, there's something about they can, not jazz necessarily, but people in bands, they can play the same shit forever. That's one thing that you and I can't do.
I get on jazz artists about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like they'll play, like there's a track called So What by Miles Davis, right? Classic jazz. Like Miles wrote this in 1959, and you can play it, and you're considered brilliant. How does that shit work?
How does that work?
At no point can I do Eddie Murphy's Goonie Goo Hoo and suddenly be, that Alonzo's a brilliant comic. You hear that Goonie Goo Hoo routine?
Imagine if you did some Woody Allen from 59. If you went to the same era.
You got to do some 59,
59 comedy, you'd get fucking rocks thrown at you. Isn't that weird? Like, comedy from 59 is terrible.
Yeah.
Try listening to some old Lenny Bruce. So I'm a huge Lenny Bruce fan.
Right.
I have framed Lenny Bruce posters in my home. But if you try to listen to it today, it's the culture has bypassed these ideas.
Yeah.
It was revolutionary and groundbreaking at the time because the culture was so childish and infantile, and its ideas and understanding of like weird concepts or abstract concepts or things like censorship or racism or any of the things that Lenny Bruce covered. Then when he was covering them back then, they were groundbreaking. But now, like, a lot of the stuff he's saying is just duh.
But I think a lot of those comics, because years ago we were having this debate. This is before rape. Okay, we were having this debate about Cosby. You got to put that qualifier in now.
Right. Yeah, you always have to.
And it was, if he started today, would he make it? And I argued yes, because his comedy would have been different. Like, he still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Lenny Bruce, he wouldn't have been talking about the things he was talking about in 59 or 60. He'd be talking about the same shit that we talk about today.
Right.
But he still would have had that brilliant comic mind, and he still would have been, who knows what he'd have been talking about, because he'd have been kicking down doors today.
Sure.
So he would have been just at some, different. But I think those comics, most of them, definitely the brilliant ones, the top ones, would be funny today. They just talk about the topics we talk about.
100%. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's just a matter of the time and the era that they existed in. But conversely, if you took someone from today, like if you took Dave Chappelle and you had Dave Chappelle doing stand-up in 1960, they'd probably be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You talking about a baby selling crack?
Oh, you're talking
what?
about, yeah.
What? The baby has kids to feed?
1999 Chappelle in 1959 never would have worked.
It's not relevant.
Right.
It has to be relevant to the time. A brilliant comedian of today trying to talk about the same subjects we talk about today. Just that's the weird thing about comedy. It really does reflect the era in which it's performed.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's the culture that we're in. I mean, it was, it was vaudeville, right? When all you had to do was juggle and hit a guy with a hammer.
Yeah, right?
Right. That was
old Jerry Lewis.
Man, he got that old hammer bit.
When he would do like a Japanese impression and put like a cigar in his mouth. Mm-hmm. Like the buck tooth. Oh, why? That I never understood that. Like, how does that represent Japanese people? The buck tooth thing. Who was it that did that? There was a guy who did that. That was like his thing.
I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about because I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely what we do. Well, just in the time, I'd say even in the time we've been doing it. I mean, I started in 93, and it's definitely different now than it was then. That was Def Jam.
Yeah.
Right? When I was, excuse me, when I started out, Def Jam was it. And I caught a lot of hell being a black comic who wasn't a Def Jam type style comic. Right. It was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
It was like, I'm on NPR. Which now is cool, but in '94 probably wouldn't have been the coolest thing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like, you get expected to fit into a certain genre.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's markets for that genre.
Yeah.
Like when Def Jam was big, like there's a market for that kind of comedy, and you saw a lot of comedians like mold themselves into that market.
Yeah, and I always thought, and I was lucky in that a few of the pros, like I remember, like Cedric the Entertainer was one, and Tommy Davidson was another, and George Wallace was another, who told me like, just do you, like you cannot, like, don't worry about that shit, because the only thing worse than being a Def Jam would be would be a fake Def Jam comic. That would the only thing worse than not fitting in would be a fake Def Jam. Like for me to suddenly pretend, like I grew up in Queens, I grew up in St. Albans, Queens, working class black neighborhood. My parents both had jobs, but we had a house with a yard and a 2-car garage and the whole bit, right? Not rich, not poor, just working class. if I'd have tried to come at you like I grew up in the South Bronx, now I had friends from the South Bronx, you know, I had friends from Bed-Stuy, but it would have been fake. And you'd have seen right through it. If you were from Bed-Stuy, you'd have seen through my ass in a minute.
Right.
You know, I might have fooled you if you were from, you know, I don't know, Colorado or some shit. But
Tommy Davidson. What happened to Tommy Davidson? Where's he at?
Tommy's still out there. Tommy's still in clubs and doing his thing. On rare occasions, once in a while, but I'll always have love for Tommy. Tommy helped me when I was new. Tommy took me on the road with him for a summer, and I learned a lot. And he introduced me to clubs that I got into. You know, Tommy was a brilliant talent. The drug thing really hurt Tommy. He went through that phase, that era, and I think what hurt him with that was that he developed a reputation for unreliability, where you know, people like, is he going to show up? And it was the worst thing to hear. But talent-wise, he was just amazing. Like, I would watch Tommy work some nights. When Tommy did a story, and I don't know how much you've ever seen him on stage or whatever.
I've seen him a bunch at the store.
When he starts becoming each different character in the story with his voices and singing and shit, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I used to watch that and just be blown away that he had that kind of talent.
The fucking drug thing, man. That's the drug, too, that cocaine drug. You know, when you talk about the drug thing, it's very rarely the pot. You know, it's always the drug thing. It's like, oh, what's he doing? You know, meth, coke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the speed ones, right? That's the one that do people, or the booze.
Yeah.
The booze do people in, too.
Well, the thing, and, you know, we talked about it on the last podcast, I went through the coke and the crack thing. And what happens when you get addicted to drugs like that, they just dominate your life.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything else because the drug dominates you. Now it's heroin, right? Now you got people on oxy and heroin, and you know, you literally see them in the nod. I was in Cleveland early this past summer, downtown Cleveland. You know, Ohio's got this, like, one of the bad opioid things, and you would just literally see people on the bench just nodding, like going into a nod. Like, holy shit, this is, you know. This is, I mean, it's been there, but when people are sitting out on a park bench just going into a nod, we got a problem. And
yeah, well, the problem in Massachusetts, there was a Anthony Bourdain show he was doing about it recently, where the problem in Massachusetts was that they were giving out pain pills to people so easily.
Yeah.
And people got hooked. And then when they try to get off the pain pills, because they were tightened down the regulations on them, then people started turning to heroin.
Right, and that was the thing in the 90s with the opioids when they came out with Oxycontin and all those related drugs. They told the doctors, no, it's not addicting. Go ahead and write the prescription. And now some of those pharmaceutical companies are paying like big lawsuits because they knew back then that it was addicting.
Yeah, I was just talking to another friend of mine the other day about pain pills. Got addicted. He was recovering from a surgery. They gave him some pain pills, and then he had some complications with the recovery. I think it was God damn it, I can't remember. It was a knee, or maybe it was a knee surgery. They had to do another surgery. They had to go in, and because there's some scar tissue and peeling. There's 4 weeks later, they go in and do another surgery. They give him more pain pills. So now he's on pain pills for 3 months. And then he tries to just get off of them.
Yeah.
And he's sick.
Yeah, it's you have to be taken off of them medically. You're not supposed to just go cold turkey. Some people do, but
meanwhile, no one told him.
No, nobody tells you.
Nobody told him anything, and he's all of a sudden a heroin addict. He's like, what in the fuck happened? I'm an opioid addict.
I had a tooth extracted, and they gave me 20 Vicodin or something, for the week or something. It's like, it's a tooth.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
I'm going to be okay. It's going to be sore for a day, and I'll be. But it's what they do. It's how they write the script, and then you get people who will sell them, right? Who will be like, "Oh, I got these pills.
Yeah,
I can just sell them."
I sold mine.
Yeah,
when I had my knee operation, I took it was either Vicodin or Percocet. I can't remember which one it was, but it made me so fucked up that I sold them to a friend of mine at the pool hall. So I can't take this shit.
Yeah, I did.
Shit's put me in a coma.
I took Vicodin once, and the same way, I got sick. I didn't like the feeling, and I didn't understand why people did.
Exactly.
This is the high you want?
I have a friend who's a musician who is really creative on Vicodin, he said. He writes music on Vicodin. I'm like, what? Like, what?
Yeah.
He plays classical guitar. Mm-hmm. He takes Vicodin and just zones out and writes classical guitar music. I'm like, ugh. I don't get it, man. I felt so stupid when I took that.
Yeah, I didn't like that I didn't like that feeling, but
I don't mind being in a little pain. It's like, I get it. I'm hurt. Like,
yeah.
Man,
pain. There is a reason you have pain, right?
Yeah.
It's your body saying, "Hey, some shit's wrong here.
Exactly.
Pay attention to it, or don't use this body part, right? Like if your elbow hurts or something,
Right.
your body's saying, "Okay, don't use the elbow for a week."
Yeah, hey, fuck it. Don't pick that up. Ow!
Right.
Exactly. But if you're just numb, it's just so...
Another reason not to be in the NFL.
People just need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Just relax. Just understand that this is going to make you appreciate the good times, right? Because like right now you're in a bad place.
But that doesn't happen, man. We got a long time ago, Stanhope did a bit about that, right? About anything you feel, there's a drug for it. Like any physical or emotional feeling you have.
I didn't see that bit.
There's a drug for it. It's a long time ago.
About it.
Yeah.
But he's right. That's right.
Yeah. Anything. There's a drug to make it better.
When I got my nose fixed, I got a deviated septum operated on. They pulled out a bunch of scar tissue and shit. And when I'm telling you there was no pain, I mean, it was uncomfortable for as much of the time as they had to pack it. You know, it was packed up with gauze or these like foam things with tubes hanging out that dripped, like the blood was dripping out of it. That was uncomfortable. But when I mean uncomfortable, like, it doesn't feel good to shove both fingers up your nose and leave them there.
Right.
But I wasn't in pain. And my doctor was pushing the pills on me. He gave me 2 different prescriptions for pain pills, for Vicodins, and I think the other ones were Oxys. I was like, man, this doesn't hurt. And he's like, well, it might hurt later. I'm like, how's it going to hurt? Like, is it going to get, something's going to change? Like, what's going to change? Like, how's it going to hurt later? Like, right now, it's just like, my nose feels uncomfortable. Like, it's not painful, though. I think people you get told by your doctor that you're going to be in pain and you might be uncomfortable, so I have some pills for you. And you're like, Jesus, I better take these pills before it gets bad. I better take these pills before I can't take it anymore. And you start freaking out.
I will say this. I did find out the medical use for cocaine, and it absolutely works.
Numbing.
Yeah, I had a ripped cornea.
Oh.
Yeah, playing ball. This guy, finger ripped across it. And I'm talking the kind of pain where you just hit the ground like you're just done, like your body is like, don't do shit, you are in. And I went to the doctor, and that's what they used. They put liquid cocaine eye drops in my eye, and the pain disappeared instantly. I was like, Doc, can I? And he was like, no, we don't prescribe these. You have to come in, and we have to put them in the eye. But I will say, you know how when you go to the doctor and you're like, make it better? Like, that's always your dream. Like, just make it better so I can leave.
Yeah.
He made it better. The pain just went away.
They put lidocaine up my nose when I got the gauze sucked out, and they pulled the plugs out, and he sprays lidocaine up there. I've had that stuff a couple of times. One time from a real bad sunburn, I put lidocaine all over my back, and it's the same feeling. It's like I'll never do it again. I'll just take the pain, because the feeling that you get from lidocaine is just this gross, weird, like you feel sketchy, like your heart feels sketchy, like, oh, you feel like you don't want to eat, but you know you probably should, but you're like, oh. It's a lidocaine gives you a very weird feeling. And I was eating that night. I went to dinner, and I was eating at the steak place, and I was like barely hungry. I'm like, why do I feel like shit? And then I realized, like, oh, they pumped that fucking lidocaine in my nose.
Oh, so it went in your system. Like, it was in your nose, but it went in your system.
I swallowed it.
Yeah.
Could taste it. Could taste it in the back. You know, because they're pumping it up your nose. Because I should have just had them yank that stuff out. Just pull it out. Because it was really no big deal.
Right.
You know, but they have you convinced that you're going to be in agony, you know?
Yeah, and different people have different pain tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, some people
are pussies.
Yeah, some people can, and then others can take it.
Well, that's the thing about jiu-jitsu. Like doing jiu-jitsu for 20 plus years or whatever I've done, you're always in pain. You just get used to compartmentalizing. Like, oh, my arm's fucked up. Just gotta just accept it and deal with it. Because if you took a pain pill every time you were injured from jiu-jitsu,
you'd be on them all the time.
You're a junkie.
Yeah, you're
going to be a junkie. You know.
That's why I avoid jiu-jitsu.
Good. Good move. Good call. Stay on those motorcycles.
When I used to play basketball all the time, though, that's the way it was. It was like my knees always hurt.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, something, and the funniest one, we were in this basketball league, and everyone on my team was like mid-30s, 32, 35, whatever. And we were playing these kids. These kids were like 19, 20. and we walked into the gym, and they get right on the court. They're running, and our whole team is sitting there. You're wrapping shit up with tape.
Right.
You're rubbing Bengay or some whatever ointment you got. Like, our whole team is on the bench just warming up, like rubbing and wrapping, looking at them like, well, we beat them. You know, we were veterans. We know what we were doing. But it was such an obvious thing at the beginning, like, yeah, fellas, we getting old. And now all of those guys I used to play ball with all play golf. Like that's the retired sport. Yeah, it's like, yeah, man, play some golf.
Well, playing ball on hard concrete, too, like those hard surfaces, that shit has got to be terrible for you. All the stop and start and bouncing around. And
well, doctors will tell you the knees aren't made for sports, you know, especially not running and jumping sports. But when you're a kid, nobody's going to tell you not to play ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's funny to me when I'm watching college basketball and they're like, these guys are tired. I'm like, no, they're not. They're 19 and they're playing basketball. If they weren't here, you know where they'd be? Playing basketball.
Yeah, they like it.
They'd be at the gym or they'd be in the park. So, there are a lot of things. They're not tired right now. They may have lost concentration. They may have this, that, the other, but tired. You're a 19-year-old athlete. You know what kind of shape those guys are in?
Yeah.
Like, they're not tired.
Well, basketball on a hardwood floor seems to have a little give to it.
Yeah, it's got a little give to it. And
that's
the
what
shoes.
you need.
The shoes are so much better now. I mean, you ever put on a pair of Converse Chuck Taylors?
I wear them all the time.
Now, imagine running and jumping in those.
Well, there's an argument that's better for you because you develop strength in your feet. Like that, what you're dealing with these basketball shoes is essentially like a big rubber cast, and that these rubber casts and all the cushioning and all that jazz actually weakens your feet.
I don't buy it.
Really?
Because I can't. I have this one pair of Nikes. I don't know what they are. They're Air something, but they got the full Air sole, and they're the only shoes I can run in.
Right, you today, but you weigh what? 240?
Yeah, 250. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so are they. Make no mistake. These guys are big. These guys are 6'7", 200 plus.
All that stomping and everything like that. I guess, like, especially you got to consider basketball players are playing how many days a week for how many months a year. I mean, and then in the off season, it's not like they just lay around and get fat.
Right. They're working out in the off season. And also you got to look at how much, money is invested in that player. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like what did Russell Westbrook just sign for $200 and whatever million? You better believe his feet are going to be taken care of. Like whatever shoes he's playing in are going to be the best thing possible for his feet because you got $40 million a year invested in that.
When a guy gets a contract like that, do the hoes just start circling like vultures?
Oh no,
like,
they've been there.
Work?
They've been there.
But how does that work?
You get hose is around way before 200 million.
But once that happens, they start thinking, all I need is one sperm to crack the egg, and I'm good. Right? There's a lot of gals out there like that.
Back in what was it, 88, 89? I used to play ball at Valley College all the time, like pickup ball, but it was high level. They were good. I played with guys who had been in like D1, who had played Division I league and stuff like that. The NBA rehab was in Van Nuys, and on weekends they would come to the gym and they'd play ball with us, right? And I got to know a few players. And this one guy told me, and this is in 88, 89, he said, an NBA kid is worth $100,000 a year for 18 years. He said, these chicks poke holes in the condoms. He was like, you can't trust any of them. And that was then.
Jesus.
With that kind of money. That was back when, $5 million was a huge contract, right? That, so you can only imagine now.
$100,000 a year seems fairly inexpensive.
Well, but
take care of a child.
But again, in '89, this was back in '89. So now that $100,000 is probably $500,000.
Probably right.
And you look, I think the average salary in the NBA, including the guys on the bench, is like $2.3 million.
Isn't that funny too? Because like when you think about like say the average person makes like what $70,000, $60,000 a year. Is that minimum wage? I mean, not minimum wage. Middle class was middle class like 60, 70.
Here
like
in California, it is. Yeah. I think across America, I think it's like 40 something.
So, but the idea that this baby would live like that is like no.
Yeah.
Like even though the guy doesn't even know the kid, right? And she's taking care of it, doesn't even know her. Like if he has to pay child support, like you're paying child support like lavish.
Yeah.
Lavish.
Yeah.
You can't, like, the average person, like, if the average family is existing off of $50,000 to $70,000 a year, but this woman wants $500,000 for this kid. Super baby.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's like we have these weird rules. Like, well, wait a minute. Why is that the case?
Because it's what dad makes, right?
I know, but it's weird, right?
To what dad makes.
But, I mean, you're not asking someone to pay for a kid's living expenses. Well, you're asking someone to keep a kid in the lap of luxury, and then the mom's going to buy a car and purses and get her nails did. And
that's the fight that dads have, right? A lot of the dads are like, well, just send me the bill. Send me the bill for private school.
What is this here? Antonio, how do you say his name? Cromartie.
Just had number 14.
Took his $3 million deal from the Colts and immediately used it to settle a child support dispute with a baby mama to avoid possible arrest in the process. Cromartie was delinquent on child support payments to Rosamita Pierre, sounds like a lovely lady, the mother of Alonzo, his oldest child, a.k.a. number one of 13 kids.
He's got 14 now.
14.
He's up to 14.
Well, he was ordered to pay her $4,000 per month. That's not that bad. That's actually reasonable.
Now multiply that by 14.
That's a lot.
He got his tubes tied, too, last year, and still had a kid.
Damn, that's some powerful sperm. Yeah. Let me see what he looks like. Scroll up. He's like, what the fuck?
Yep. Yep. Which is why, when you get to Kaepernick and the boycott of football, and some people are mad at the players for playing, it's like, that's why you got to play, because you got 14 kids.
Kaepernick and the boycott of football is like, what does that have to do with child support?
Meaning that the idea of black people boycotting football, and then people saying, like, why did the players play? Like, screw them. But every black player in the NFL just refused to play. And It's like, no, that ain't going to happen. They need their paychecks.
This whole national anthem thing, along with football, is very weird. It's like, football players should be playing football. UFC fighters don't have to fucking stand there with their hand over their heart to show allegiance and to show, you're basically asking someone to be domesticated.
Right.
Like, you're asking them to follow the rules.
The truth has come out, like, players didn't do it until, like, what was it,
10 years ago.
Or something like that, when the government started paying the NFL to have them do it.
Exactly.
That whole thing is...
It's weird, man. It's weird because the whole thing, you're asking them to be, they have to give in. You're asking them to follow the rule.
My problem with it, and I called it the misdirection, the protest never had to do with the flag.
Right. It was about
the
cops.
protest had to do with cops and the treatment, and it was he just did it at that point because that's a powerful statement to do it at that point, and now the misdirection, the changing of the topic is making it about the flag, and it's like, no, that's not what they were never protesting the flag or veterans or Americans and again, when you get into those rules of the flag, you're not supposed to have the flag on T-shirts or bikinis or hats or a million other things we sell with the flag on it. Like, if you want to talk about respecting the flag, we wouldn't do any of that.
You're right,
And you summed it up. I mean, it's about control, right? It's the same thing with these freedom of speech marches, like where, it's okay to have freedom of speech as long as you're saying something I agree with.
Right. Well, the problem with this whole Kaepernick thing is that it's not an effective form of protest, too, because it's getting people pissed off for the wrong reasons, right?
Well, it's
getting people thinking that you're protesting America itself. And they're like, why don't you fucking move to Canada? People start getting crazy about it. But to say what he's trying to do, or what he was trying to do, was protest all these unarmed people getting shot by cops. And so he takes a knee for that. But the national anthem doesn't have shit to do with those cops.
Right. Well, it just became a thing of when one guy did it, and he did it as a protest, and he said he wanted to start the conversation, and then the conversation got lost. Yeah. And now the conversation is completely lost, and the argument is a completely different topic. And, but what you said, control is definitely part of it. Same thing with the universities, right? With free speech on the universities. Yeah. And, when you look at a school like Berkeley had a reasonable argument. It's like, look, when we bring one of these radical speakers here and it costs $1 million for security, who's going to pay that? It's like if you're going to pay it, fine, we'll let you talk. But if nobody's going to pay the $1 million for security, then we can't have these radical speakers here.
Well, sort of. The problem with that article is they've had those speakers there forever. And then when they started having these Antifa protests, and they also started supporting these Antifa protests, that's a big issue. Well, they stopped having cops go after the Antifa people, and the chief of police was literally telling people, the mayor was telling the police to stand down and let these people protest. And not just protest. They were being very violent and attacking things, and you're setting up a reaction-action event.
Right.
So if you have something like that where people are breaking windows and lighting things on fire or doing whatever they're doing, you're going to have people that say, fuck those people. We're going to meet there, and we're going to protest the anti-protest people. And then next thing you know, you've got a real issue in your hands.
Well, that's the point. That's where we're at now, where everything has to be that big an issue. Yeah, you're right. 10 years ago at Berkeley, you could have had a right-wing speaker that the school didn't agree with, and there would have been some protesters outside.
Just not even a couple years ago.
But then it became, and this is a social media effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
The speaker brings his social media thing, and he needs to stir it up to build his social media side, and then some people come, and then the other side gets mad, just what you said.
Yeah.
And they bring and then you bring the angry groups from both sides are going to meet, and then they're like, okay, that now but because it makes the whole thing bigger. It's like promoting a fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like promoting a fight. It's like, it's one thing if two guys get into a fight, but if you promote that fight for a month, 3 months, 6 months ahead, that fight's going to be huge. And this is the same thing. They're these speakers, the protest is part of the publicity.
Right.
So...
Well, there's speakers, and then there's people that are provocateurs, right? Like, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Right, that's a better term.
He's a provocateur.
I shouldn't say speakers. I should say provocateurs.
Whereas Ben Shapiro is a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Shapiro is an intellectual, and he's a guy who's got some very solid arguments, whether you agree with him or not. He's got some real facts to go with his arguments. And he's a Jew, and he wears a yarmulke, and people are calling him a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this whole punch Nazi thing,
right.
And just the arguments are getting so blurry, and it's just like we were talking about before when it comes to gun control. It's teams. I'm on team left wing. I support Antifa.
Yeah.
I'm on team right wing. I support the conservatives and POTUS. Like the people that are calling Trump POTUS. You're defaming POTUS. Like, whoa. It's fucking Trump. It's Donald Trump. I mean, if there's ever an argument, this is ridiculous. The fucking guy who was the host of The Apprentice is now the guy you're calling POTUS.
Joe, you're disrespecting the White House.
Disrespecting POTUS. I mean, it's like literally like the Pope. It gets to this almost like papal situation, right?
And again, these are the same people who said the exact same thing about Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Last year. Right? But the president has never been disgraced or insulted like, really?
They insulted Obama when he wore a tan suit. We played that a couple of weeks ago.
They lost their minds when Obama wore a tan suit.
That was the end. A big deal.
That was the end of America.
Disrespecting the office with off-color clothing. It's a gang color.
That's right.
He's gang Sandy.
And then Michelle Obama wore a sleeveless dress. And I think that was just,
Didn't Alex Jones do something recently saying that Michelle Obama was a man? Like proof that Michelle Obama was a man? What the fuck? He's on some shit today.
They'll do all that shit when Michelle ain't in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It was easy for Donald Trump to call pro football players sons of bitches from Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
Let's try it on the sideline with a few of them standing next to you.
Sons of bitches. Yeah, fire those sons of bitches. You're fired. They shouldn't have them fucking stand for the national anthem. First of all, if you want to have a national anthem for a game, what are you saying? You're rallying up patriotism at a sporting event. Sporting events are supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to remove us from all of our daily bullshit.
Right. If it's going to be entertaining, be entertaining.
Yeah.
And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
They did a thing this past week at the Rams game, like during the national anthem. How many people were in the beer line? how many guys were taking a piss.
Oh yeah.
How many? You know what I mean? It's not like
those guys
it's not like everybody stopped.
Yeah, take a knee while you're pissing.
Yeah, it's not like not like everybody stopped and turned and held their hand over their heart.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, I got my dick in my hand.
It's gonna be
now.
people
literally
running into the bathroom, beating people's asses for pissing during the national anthem if you tell them they can. It's just the protest is ineffective, right? Getting on your knees, it just causes too much controversy. And here's the other problem with it. It doesn't stop anything. It doesn't stop cops from doing anything. It doesn't even shed light on it. It points to you, and people start talking about, well, what is it that you're protesting? Well, we're mad at you because you're not standing up for the national anthem. It creates all this noise,
and
all
again,
this political noise.
That's the part I call the misdirection, because initially when Kaepernick did it, it had some meaning. It had some meaning to him, and it was about starting a conversation. And when it became this bigger thing, like you're talking about, when it became this, oh, you're anti-American, you're anti-troops, or blah, 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 now it's lost its effectiveness.
Yeah.
Now, you got to do something else, because that doesn't, you're right, it doesn't mean anything anymore. People don't even know, they don't even know why you're doing it, but they hate you for doing it. You know what I mean?
There's too many people doing it now, too. Well, why are you doing it? I do it because I hate puppies.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Who the fuck is,
Exactly.
And now everybody's doing it because they're mad at Trump, talking shit about the NFL.
Right.
So you're getting just giant groups of people doing it now, much more so than before.
Yeah, and it's lost its effectiveness, it's lost its importance, and and the players, a lot of the players get caught in the middle, right? Because if you do have a thing where your team says you can't do it, or you're going to be fined, or you're going to whatever.
Are they saying that?
Yeah, the NBA said that it's against the rules.
The NBA.
The NBA.
But is anybody doing that in the NBA yet?
They hadn't started playing. The NBA just started this week in preseason.
Right, but
and
the
before
NBA
it started,
in the past,
the NBA did things like they worn "I Can't Breathe" T-shirts for Eric Garner.
That's right. Yeah.
And they've done things like that.
Hands up, don't shoot.
NBA players are a bit more sophisticated in their protests, and I think they're also more united.
Less head trauma.
Yeah.
Probably a big part of it.
They've also been encouraged, I think, to speak out, whereas I don't know that the NFL players are also encouraged to speak out in public on these topics.
I don't know if basketball players are necessarily encouraged to speak out, or the big difference with the NBA, the players are bigger than the team.
Right. They're huge stars.
Yeah, so you have, like, LeBron is bigger than the Cavaliers. Curry is bigger than the Warriors.
When LeBron tweeted, "You bum," at the president, I was like, oh my goodness, like, where are we?
Yeah.
Where are we going where a fucking superstar pro athlete is tweeting "you bum" at the president of the United States, who happens to be a reality show host? Fuck, man, this is crazy.
But theoretically, look, we've elected a reality show host. LeBron could be the president in 20 years.
100% with Vice President Kanye. Vice President Kanye with a fucking Prozac drip. He would have an IV bag dripping right into his arm while he's standing there like zoning out, getting chubby. Kim Kardashian is telling him what to do in his ear.
Kim Kardashian is the first lady.
Whoa,
why the hell not? Why the hell not?
Melania can barely speak English.
That's right.
They're talking about immigration, closing the border. Like, what the fuck? Where'd you get her? Where'd you get her? She doesn't even speak, and she did lesbian porn. I don't watch Bill Maher all the time, but apparently he did some kind of top 10 list about Melania, and if one of the jokes was she has no first language. Yeah. That's a joke that Russell Beater said about Yoshi. Yoshi Kobayashi. He was saying, he goes, Yoshi speaks terrible English, but when you talk to people that speak Japanese, his Japanese sucks too. It's like, you don't have a language, man. Like, you have no real language. Yeah, it's the whole thing is this football thing is very strange. It's very strange because now they kicked these two high school kids off the team. Because they're following their heroes, so they say, fuck it, I'm going to take a knee too. First of all, if you're taking a knee, you should at least be able to write an essay.
Yeah.
Tell me why you're taking a knee, son. And you got to know the difference between your, Y-O-U-R, and Y-O-U-R-E, and,
You also got to be starting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if the starting quarterback takes a knee, there's a lot more latitude than a second string defensive end. You know what I mean? Like, if trust me, if Aaron Rodgers. If Dak Prescott was taking a knee, it'd be a whole different conversation.
Well, Colin Kaepernick wasn't a big star player.
He was, but he fell off.
Do you think he fell off because of the controversy and all the hate?
No, I don't know what it was. He had started falling off before that.
So that was how he got back into the game?
I don't know what it was. I don't know what but one of the arguments is, and it is true, he's a lot better than a lot of quarterbacks who have jobs. See, that was the thing. They said, no, it's not a conspiracy because of the protests, but then they showed the numbers of like various backup quarterbacks who are in the league, and he's better than a lot of them. And then one of the owners, I think it was Baltimore, where the coach wanted him, and the owner was like, nah, I don't want him because of the protests. So it became a thing of where they said he's not blackballed because of the protests, but then it came out, yeah, he was blackballed because of the protests. And again, that's one of those things where, and you know this with any athlete, like your complaints depend on where you are in your career.
Sure. Well, Tom Brady even said the president was divisive.
Yeah.
And when Tom Brady said that, everybody went, oh, Jesus.
Right.
He's not taking the knee yet, but they're hooking arms.
Yeah.
Everybody's hooking arms in unity.
Because when Trump spoke out against the NFL, now he's aiming at their money.
Yeah.
And he's telling fans not to go to the games.
Yeah.
Like, those owners love him, but now they're like, whoa, hold the fuck up now.
Yeah.
That's money out of our pocket.
Everybody's saying hold the fuck up now because it is working. DirecTV just offered this gigantic refund for their NFL package.
Yeah.
Because people are pissed off that people are taking a knee. You're paying to see football, you fucks.
Yeah.
You're not paying to see people stand with their hand over their heart. Like, what? Here's the solution. Take all that shit out of the game.
Yeah.
Okay? If you want the players to be compliant and submissive, well, you're asking the wrong thing.
Right.
You're talking about super athletes is what is essentially a group combat sport. That's what football is.
Yeah.
Okay? And if they're not, I mean, what are you doing here? You're telling them to keep their job. They have to put their hand over their heart and stand in a certain position. That seems very fucking bizarre.
Well, Fox said that they're going to stop televising the national anthem. And it was pointed out, well, you didn't used to televise the national anthem.
Yeah.
Like you didn't televise it until 2 weeks ago,
right,
when it became controversial. Before that, we'd be listening to those three guys in the studio right up till the kickoff. And then the only time they televised it is if it was like Whitney Houston was singing it, where it was,
big deal.
That was a big deal. So.
Well, I'm a big fan of no anthem in sports because I like sports to be sport. Like one of the things I love about the UFC, there's no national anthems. You don't have to play, they don't have to play the Brazilian national anthem when Jose Aldo's fighting, or the American national anthem when Chris Weidman's fighting. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You just have to go right to the fight. Here's the main event of the evening. Boom, entertainment, blah, blah, blah. And if someone wants to make some sort of a political statement or a stand, they can do that in an interview.
Yeah.
And then that interview will be judged based on the content of whatever the conversation is. And that's how it should be. This weird sort of way where someone taking a knee is supposed to protest cops shooting people, but it doesn't say that while you're taking the knee. You're taking the knee during the anthem. The anthem is supposed to be all of us. It's supposed to be America.
Yeah,
the whole group as a team, like the United States of America, not, the Seahawks versus the Dolphins. Put all that aside for a second. We're all in this together. That's the idea.
I understand why he did it, and I understand why he did it then, because it was the way to call attention to it. But now that's lost. But you know what the national anthem has been historically? Get to your seat. The game's about to start. Mm-hmm. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It was like the what's the last word in the last two words of the national anthem? Play ball.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, that's what we thought was part of the song, because that's what you heard right at the end. The umpire yelled play ball and the game started, So I understood what Kaepernick did, but now it's done. And now it's been compromised and changed, and the arguments changed, and it's, and he's still not playing.
People are using the land of the free to shake their dick as they're trying to get it out. Like, get down there for the game. In the land of the free. What is this?
This just came out now this afternoon, maybe even within the hour that 1,200 players' personal data has been exposed in a leak by hackers in the NFL, including Colin Kaepernick's data.
What kind of data?
Personal information off of a server from the NFLPA.
Oh,
the Players Association.
Now, was that a hack there, or did they just have Experian or Equifax or whatever the hell it was?
Right. It's a little different. So they had a Bitcoin ransom. They were trying to say they would get rid of this leak, but it is now coming out.
Only $428. That's all they asked
at the time.
How crazy is that, though? Give them $428.
I know someone that happened to that Bitcoin hack.
Really?
Yeah. I was just talking to her this weekend. She has an accounting company, and apparently these hackers take control of your database, and they have an encryption key, and you have to pay them in Bitcoin to get the encryption key to get back your own data.
Yeah, there's a giant group of people from other countries that engage in this, and they target large businesses and people that will be willing to pay.
Yeah, it's like an extortion thing.
Yeah, very weird.
Well,
right?
See, now you have something to lose. You know. Me, if you want to hold my 428 followers hostage, go ahead. I'll just start another website.
Do you think Colin Kaepernick gets confronted by the suits? Do you think they sit him down and go, "Hey, man, you got to stop doing this. This is fucking up everybody"? And
I think they did last year. They did last year.
Where do you think this goes? Because my question is, like, when the more Trump tweets about this, ratings down, NFL bad, sad, he tweets that, and all the Trumpettes go along with it, and then they start boycotting people. I see all these fucking tweets, boycott the NFL and all this crazy thing. And
you know where it goes? It goes nowhere because we have no attention span as a nation.
But it's going to have to stop or continue.
But again, this is the thing. We just had this mass shooting.
Right.
So the attention now will be on the NRA and, guns and so on. You know what I mean? And the NFL will be on the back burner. Like we have, in the past month, 6 weeks, Confederate statues, right?
Yeah.
Hurricanes.
Charlottesville.
The NFL. Now it's a mass shooting. You know what I mean? We have no attention span as a nation, so it will just go away. And in another month, people will be watching football.
There'll be something else.
Yeah. Because there's always the latest big story, and then that's I haven't heard a thing about a Confederate statue in the last 2 weeks of them getting knocked down, of them getting put back up.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
true.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, America has zero attention span.
Yeah, did you see what that fucking lady from CBS, that top executive, she was like a vice president at CBS, some huge position. She went on Facebook saying she didn't feel bad for the people that got shot in Vegas because they were Republicans. They were likely Republicans. She's talking about hundreds of people that got shot for going to a country music concert. Like, the fact that she just made this blanket statement, she thought they were likely Republicans because they were at a country music concert.
The thing about that, this is the thing about freedom of speech that people forget. You have freedom of speech, but there's consequences.
Right.
It's not freedom of speech without consequence. So she can say that, and then if CBS fires her the next day, it's like, well, you shouldn't have said that shit. You should have kept it to yourself. Or you should have told your friends at the cocktail party, but the minute you made that public statement, we don't want to be associated with you.
But it's what we were talking about earlier, this team thing, that someone could be so ideologically isolated. They're so locked into this liberal bubble that they think it's okay to say something like that it's okay for mass murder to exist, and you don't feel bad for those those people
you don't agree with them politically.
They don't share your team ideology. I mean, what is her name, this lady?
Oh, I had it.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah,
this woman level. She was a very high-level executive. This isn't like some crazy person. I think the key word in your
sentences was.
Was, yeah. Well, she's fucked now. I mean, she's likely fucked forever. I mean, this is not something that people forget. She was a vice president of business affairs. Oh, no. Vice president of business affairs. Yeah, Haley Giftman Gold wrote on her Facebook page she was not sympathetic to victims of shootings because she claimed most country music fans are Republicans. Wow. She wrote that if they Wouldn't do anything when children were murdered. I have no hope that repugs will ever do the right thing. I am actually not even sympathetic because country music fans are often Republican gun toters. Holy
well,
shit.
You got the right to say it, and you got the right to lose your job.
Not even sympathetic is such a... I mean, that could have been your sister, your mom,
exactly.
your daughter, someone's little kid. I mean, that was a country music thing, right? There was a lot of family type folks that are there. Country music events, man, I don't know what time of night that it all went down, but how old were the people
I don't know,
there?
Like 10.
I saw a kid in the video, one of those videos.
Yeah. I mean, sure, there's kids at country music things.
What I said was, had it been a rap concert, they would have blamed the artists.
Not if a white guy did it. There would have been some serious calls of horrific racism. It's just lucky that a white guy was shooting white people. Because
and again, you know, it's the reason I laugh, because like that's how horrific we become as a society.
Yeah.
That's the statement. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, there's a white guy shooting white people, so we couldn't twist the race into what I mean?
That's what I
like
saw today about someone was writing about white privilege.
Right. We're so we're insane. We're insane that is the issue with something like this, But it's true. I mean, what you're saying is true, but we've reached that level of insanity that statement is true.
Imagine how freaked out people would be if that was a Muslim that did this.
Oh, it'd be war. It would be war. It would be war in 100%. The streets.
Yeah.
And actually, like, no Muslim would be safe in America.
I mean, are we going to have war on white dudes with guns?
No.
I mean, there was white dudes with guns that got shot by a white dude with guns. Right. Everyone must be so conflicted, because a lot of those people that were in the audience, like one of the country music guys actually came out and said that he completely switched his stance on gun rights. He said, I've been a Second Amendment advocate my entire life. He goes, I have concealed carry permits. There's people that with concealed carry permits that were on my staff. Yeah, guitarist in Las Vegas Control changed his mind on gun control. What is his name? Caleb Keeter. Caleb Keeter sounds like the whitest fucking dude that's ever lived.
Caleb Keeter, good old
Keeter.
Boy.
My name's Caleb Keeter.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Caleb Keeter drives a truck.
Oh, for sure. He's got does he have a a baseball hat or a cowboy hat? Level 95 Wizard. Guitarist for the, what is that? Josh Abbott Band. See, I'll say something like that. I'll be like, who the fuck are they? And then you go to their Twitter page, they have 24 million followers. I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand. Country music is a whole different world,
different world. But, again, we're getting back to where we started, which is great, and the insanity of the whole thing. But the problem, what you said about like a white guy doing this shooting, we were talking about everyone's in their team, right? Everyone's in their group.
Yeah.
But this ruins the narrative.
Right.
Because if our narrative is the Muslims are terrorists, it's they. They are the terrorists, and the black people are criminals, and the Mexicans are, rapists and dope dealers and everything, then, oh, shit, one of ours did it to us?
A millionaire.
Yeah.
A white millionaire who's a real estate investor and a gambler.
Right. This ruins your narrative. Now you have to figure out how to change your story to make him other, because he has to somehow become other.
There are people that are taking advantage of it in a fucked up way. Like I saw this article on white privilege. They're saying that the shooter had white privilege, and using his white privilege, that's how he walked through the casino with all these guns and all this equipment and shit like that. I'm like, what? He's a fucking psychopath.
No, I believe white privilege exists in certain circumstances, not in that one.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous argument. What are you looking at, Jamie? White privilege of the lone wolf shoot. Oh, that fucking guy. Of course. That fucking fake black guy. Mm-hmm. Of course it's him who writes that. That guy is such a race pimp.
Oh, you're talking about the article about the guy being a lone wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that.
This whole thing that we're dealing with has so many different facets to it, the mass shooter thing. But a big part of it is the fact that it becomes the narrative for the entire country. It becomes a huge part of what everybody's talking about. And these people that have, for whatever reason, they have this need to be a guy who gets paid attention to.
And this gets back to your point about mental health.
Yeah.
And our mental health as a nation, that the mass shooter is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was Trevor Noah was talking about on the Daily Show, where we're really not surprised anymore.
Right.
Because he said, like, he's been in the United States for 2 years, living in New York for 2 years, and how many mass shootings this is. And it's like, but Americans are like, yeah, another one.
Yeah.
And we got to develop some sense of outrage before we do something about this. Or, like the Onion article was talking about, we just like, well, we'll just hope that it doesn't happen again.
We won't do anything differently. And
right,
hope
we're
it
not
never
going to
happens
do
again.
anything different, but we're just going to hope,
Yeah.
And that line, the thoughts and prayers line.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
It's not doing
Our
any good.
thoughts and prayers go out to
Well, people feel like they need to say something, right?
And people do, but if you're in the government, if you're a policymaker, then you do more than just say that. You got to put your balls on the line and step up and do something. Challenge the gun lobby about registration of weapons. It was easier for them to challenge the hotel lobby about security in hotels than to challenge the gun lobby about registration of weapons.
But here's the thing about the registration of weapons. This guy had these weapons illegally. I mean, these are still, like, at the end of the day, you're talking about a criminal possessing criminal weapons. Same thing as Sandy Hook. He got access to those
Sandy
illegally.
Hook, he got them from his mom, who got them legally.
Right. But he got them illegally.
But you can still make it, like you said, if you made it more difficult, if you had to take a class, if you had to register.
If your shit had to be in a safe.
There'd be a percentage that didn't have them.
Yeah, I mean, your shit should be locked up. I mean, it's just, I just don't know. But what's interesting, too, is that Trump used to be a Democrat. He was a Democrat forever.
Trump's a publicity guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's, this goes back to Sarah Palin, right? Like, I never liked Sarah Palin or agreed with Sarah Palin, but I respected Sarah Palin's ability to manipulate the media. Sarah Palin knew how to keep her name in the news. Kim Kardashian's another one. Like, you may not like Kim Kardashian, but guess what? You know who she is.
Right.
You know who she is. We all know who she is. I read somewhere that she is the most famous woman on earth. And I can believe that. And
yeah. I had a whole bit about it. I had a whole bit about aliens come down here and try to figure out why that's the most famous woman on earth.
Right.
And we explained to her by using O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Like, the whole idea is that O.J. Simpson, got out of, like Robert Kardashian was O.J. Simpson's one of his attorneys.
I remember that.
They all died of cancer. Mm-hmm. That's what's fucked up.
Yeah.
F. Lee Bailey's the only guy that's alive. Mm-hmm. And he's broke and living in Maine somewhere.
Damn.
Everybody that got O.J. off was just ostracized. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Cochran died of cancer.
Yeah.
Kardashian died of cancer. They all just the fucking hate that came their way.
A lot of brothers in jail because Johnny Cochran died. we miss Johnny, Joe. I ain't gonna lie to you, Joe. We miss Johnny. Johnny
fucked up. He fucked up with the OJ
Johnny
case.
was good, man.
If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. And everybody was like, "What?"
There's a lot of ball players doing time saying, "Damn, Johnny."
Are you? So you watched that whole Cuba Gooding Jr. thing?
Mm-hmm.
I've only watched one episode. I watched one episode last night, but it brought it all back.
Underrated actor.
Oh yeah, he won an Oscar.
Yeah, I know.
But then sort of dropped off.
You look at and that movie he did with De Niro about being the first black diver. Was it Man of Honor? It was a phenomenal movie. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I never even heard of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called Man of Honor or something. It's Cuba Gooding Jr. plays the first black deep sea diver, and it's a true story. Yeah.
Men of Honor 2000.
Check that out.
He sort of it dropped off in a weird way. Like, I wonder what happened with him.
I don't know. It's one of those things when he gets a chance to play a role, he's phenomenal in it. But so many times he gets these, clown movies, bullshit roles and stuff like that. I don't know how Hollywood works on that level, so I don't know what it is. But I
think it's some poor choices. Poor choices after what was the fucking agent movie? Show Me the Money. What the fuck was that?
Jerry Maguire.
Mm-hmm. After that movie, there was a big drop-off.
Yeah. It happens. Same thing happened with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, but Jamie Foxx is still in the mix. He still does everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in Django.
Jamie Foxx works. He was great in Django and that Baby Driver.
I didn't see that one. I heard it was amazing.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah, he's good in that.
Jamie Foxx is just one of those weird dudes. It seems like he could do anything.
Super talent.
Yeah, super and super personable too. That's the other thing about him. Like
I
hanging
met
out
him.
with him, he's such a normal guy.
Met him last year. Couldn't have been nicer. He was very cool.
Yeah, he did the podcast like a couple months ago. Just as normal as it comes.
There's a recent clip of him describing the potential Tyson movie that they might be making and like the opening of it that they might have worked out. It's fucking awesome. It's like a 3-minute clip of him just describing it, doing a little Tyson impression in there.
Oh, well, he can do really amazing impressions.
Yeah.
He would be great as Tyson. You just have to do a lot of roids.
Yeah, he's going to have to get real thick.
Roid it up.
So they are completely different body types.
Yeah, he would have to roid it up. And he would have to actually learn how to box. I don't know if he does. But if you can't have a guy like...
He might have trained some when he did Ali. He was what, Ali's corner man when Will Smith played Ali?
Wasn't he Bondini Brown? Yeah, he was. Yeah. So Will Smith pulled it off. He looked like a boxer. He looked like he had been training. But there's a few guys that, there he is. Yeah, there's a few guys that just don't pull it off. When you're playing a fighter, like even Russell Crowe when he played Jim Braddock, it was like, I'm not buying you a boxer.
Can you imagine if boxing really was like movie fights, where every punch connects?
Well, some fights are. Go watch Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward. Those fucking fights literally were movie fights.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was so jazzed up about.
Right. Yeah.
Some of the most, blood and guts fights for sure, but preposterous fights. They stood right in front of each other and beat the shit out of each other.
That was Hagler Hearns. That was the only fight I saw that was a movie fight. Like, we're just going to stand here and just punch each other until it's over. That was
Hagler just decided that fight, he fought very strategically in most fights. When he fought Mugabe was a murderous puncher, and he took Mugabe into deep water and then fucked him up and stopped him. But not Hearns. He said, I'm going to jump right in your face, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, they didn't like each other.
No, they didn't. And didn't Hearns break his hand? Like, that's why he couldn't keep punching. He broke his hand on Hagler's head.
Yeah, and he hurt Hagler.
Yeah.
He stunned Hagler in the first round, but Hagler had a preposterous chin. Yeah. Preposterous. His only knockdown his entire career was a bullshit knockdown. I forget who it was that knocked him down, but some Argentinian dude. But it was a bullshit knockdown. It was a fake knockdown. It was like a slip.
And then he moved to Italy and started making movies.
Just banging Italian chicks. If you go to Italy, man,
I know.
You realize, you're like, why am I trying so hard?
There's ain't nothing
Roldan. Yeah. The night Marvin Hagler was not knocked down. That's a fucking stain on his record, man. They should go back and remove that. It was not a knockdown. You can see, are they going to play it? Play it. Let's watch. Oh. See if you could find the knockdown. It's a bullshit fucking knockdown. They don't have a clip of Roldan knocking down Marvin Hagler? Marvin Hagler still beat his ass. He had ridiculous muscles on the side of his head that was like he was built with, like he was born with headgear. His temples, they said the muscles that surrounded his temples were 3 times larger than a normal person's.
Yeah, well, that happens, right? Certain athletes.
Oh, for sure, man. Some guys have bigger dicks.
Some guys are born.
Is that it?
Yeah, just show it real quick. Let's see here. Bullshit knockdown. He just like pushed down the back of his head. Are they going to show it?
No.
Oh, they're going to show it in between rounds.
So it was in that round?
Yeah, just let it go for a second here. What'd you do?
I was trying to go back. Oh, you just want to see that replay, sorry.
Yeah. Show just in between rounds, they'll show it on the replay. So he went back to his corner. 48 KOs in his 62 fights. And he's one of the few guys that when he lost to Sugar Ray Leonard, he just went, fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he lost that fight. I've watched that fight a few times. I thought it was a decision for Hagler, or should have been a decision for Hagler. Look at this. See?
Yeah,
total slipped.
Yeah, he slipped.
Total slip. He mostly missed the punch.
The top of his head.
Grazed the punch.
And Hagler slipped.
See, he just kind of pushed him down with his forearm, and Hagler bounced right up. That is not a knockdown, you motherfuckers. But he took some bombs from Mugabe. Mugabe was murdering people at the time.
But, we were talking about football players. Boxers is another one where they don't know when to let it go.
Yeah.
Like you can only take so many punches to the head.
Yeah, MMA fighters as well.
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell's talking about making a comeback now.
Yeah, you get hooked on the fame, but you got at some point you got to, and it's not even when they get old; it's when they get to like 50, like late 40s or 50.
Not even that. I mean, Liddell's talking about making a comeback now at 48, and I think he's been out of the fight game for at least 5 or 6 years. The UFC gave him a sort of a no-show job for a while, and they said, look, you don't have to work. You just come in, do some events every now and then, you get a chunk of money every month. And so he was living off that and doing really well with that. But then the UFC sold, and when the UFC sold, they killed those jobs. This whole fucking UFC sold thing is so crazy because they bought it for $4 billion. Billion.
Right.
Like, to make the monthly nut, they had to cut 100 jobs from the UFC. 100 people got fired.
Mm-hmm.
And now they gotta figure out some way
to build it.
Well, it's not just that. It's like you gotta make payments every month.
Mm-hmm.
So they sold some more of it off. They sold some more of the assets off to some other corporations or some other people, and I'm glad I don't have to deal with that shit, dude. I just show up and talk.
Yeah.
I don't envy the people that have to deal with the bean counters and the money.
The business side, yeah.
What is worth $4 billion? Is there
Star Wars?
Yes, yeah. Somewhere you can just sell it in a million
Star
different
Wars.
ways.
And it was like worth it.
Yeah.
Like I bought Star Wars for $4 billion and I'm making money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Disney bought that.
Yeah.
But then they put Star Wars rides and
Absolutely.
they license
it's
all
Disney.
the shit.
It's Disney. You know, you
ever do that
get
Star Tours?
Get Jar Jar Binks to come to your birthday party.
I bet you can. There's a whole team of them probably. Have you done that ride at Disneyland? When's the last time you've been at Disneyland? You sit down that ride, you go through. It's like a virtual reality.
I did it earlier
Star
this
Trek
year.
Ride, Star Wars ride.
Yeah.
That ride is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's when Disney does something, they're going to do it, right? The movies, like there's not going to be any more of those Jar Jar Binks movies or any of that. Like Disney's like, yeah, we're going to handle this.
Yeah, that guy didn't work out. He's in the Star Tours movie though.
Yeah,
that thing, the little thing when sometimes you run into him like underwater, he's drowning and everybody gets excited.
But it's but the quality of the movies went back up.
Oh yeah, for sure. They don't play games.
Yeah.
A lot of money invested. They're doing a Star Wars park at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Some gigantic fucking huge thing.
It was, what was it? It used to be called Tomorrowland or something like that. It was something else, and they're converting it and making the whole thing into Star Wars.
Yeah. They said it's going to be open in like 2 years. It's going to be insane.
I don't know how old you are, but do you remember
50.
when the first movie came? So, yeah, you remember when the first movie came out?
Fuck yeah.
Like think about that think about George Lucas. Like, I'm going to make a movie that's going to change culture. It is literally going to bring change language. Like we're going to have, things we talk about, right? Like Jedi mind tricks and the Force, and it's got to be mind-boggling to sit back and say, yeah, I created this whole thing.
Got to be mind-boggling, but do you think he set out to do that? I mean, he set out to just make a killer movie.
I don't think he did. No, he just set out to make a great movie and
just hit all the buttons for people.
Everything for generations.
Yeah.
Generations to be like,
He had all the things. He had the rebel with the fucking giant gorilla that followed him around.
Yep,
the gun.
The wise Yoda, wise Yoda.
He had the wise Yoda. He had the old man who was the master, who's showing him how to do it. The master dies.
One of the greatest villains of all time.
Oh, the best. The guy could kill people with his mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And he fucking, you didn't even see his eyes. You couldn't see anything. No emotions.
That's all he did. He would breathe. He would breathe.
That was the shit.
And imagine being a stormtrooper, just an average stormtrooper, and you hear this coming down the hall. You're like, oh shit, I might die. Yeah. I might die, right? Like, I don't know if I did my job right, or maybe he just needs to make an example.
You ever try watching it today, though? It's so corny.
It's not. It didn't. But it's still. It's only still great because it brings back the memory of how great it was.
Yeah.
But no, it's not the movie it was then. But back
effects.
Then, we'd never seen anything like that. Jump into hyperspace and all that.
Yeah. It's amazing. The special effects were terrible.
Did you ever see Darth Vader with the actor's voice?
The actual actor?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube. Exactly.
No.
He's not exact. Because, the actor had to do the lines for the other actors.
Right. That's funny.
Not quite the impact of James Earl Jones.
Yeah, James Earl Jones, like, what a voice that guy has. Ving Rhames is the modern version of that.
Yeah.
Like, Ving Rhames does a lot of voiceover stuff for the UFC, and he does a lot of that. Who
you telling? You're talking to a guy with a voice who can't get a job
because Ving Rhames
and those guys do it. Yeah, because and I lost one to Danny Glover, and I'm like, if I ever meet him, I'm like, man, you got Lethal Weapon money. You didn't need this. It's a Guinness beer commercial. I needed that.
It's competition out there, bro. Nobody's going to lay down for you.
Nobody.
That's not how it works, especially not in the voiceover game.
I got to start punching people in the throat.
The voiceover game's a weird game, right? There's some dudes, like, who's an interesting one is the guy from Ray Donovan. Fuck's his name? Liev Schreiber.
Yeah.
Liev? How do you say it? Liev? Liev Schreiber? But he's really good at it. He does a lot of the UFC ones for Fox.
And I can never remember his name, but Donald Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
Tons. He's the voice of Delta.
Is he dead now?
He's the voice of Juice.
Is he dead now? Donald Sutherland?
No. Is it Donald Sutherland? Am I saying it right? Is that the right actor? The guy with the white hair?
Donald Sutherland is the guy who was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Maybe
still alive?
Yeah, 82.
Yeah,
82.
Yeah, I think the same guy.
Damn.
He just did the Hunger Games movies. He was like the president in the Hunger Games. That's the guy, right?
He's in a movie with Helen Mirren.
Yeah, that guy. He does a ton.
Whenever I think of him, I think of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Oh! The end when he became one of the guys.
And you know who's getting paid? The guy who does the Allstate. There's another one that I could have done.
Yeah, that guy.
Dennis Haysworth. I could have done that for a lot less money.
You're the only one who knows his name.
A friend of mine used to work with him on a series. That's why I know his name. But
you can go to any mall in America.
And he was also...
Who's the Allstate guy?
He was also in Major League.
Yeah, Pedro Serrano. That's how I know him.
Yeah, he was Serrano in Major League.
Bat and Joe Boo.
God, I don't remember that at all. I barely remember Major League.
Major League was
yeah,
great.
That's him.
Major League. I love that movie.
That was a fun fucking movie.
That's one of those movies that if you're flicking channels and it's on, I'm watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen back before the crack.
Yep. Wesley Snipes when he was paying taxes.
Yeah.
They just replaced him in the second one and tried to act like it wasn't. Omar Epps played the same character in the second movie, Major League 2.
Really? They replaced Wesley?
Yeah, wow.
Well, Wesley had a bunch of issues. There was a great Patton Oswalt bit he does about being in Blade 2 and about how they replaced Wesley Snipes halfway in the movie. Like, it's Wesley Snipes, I don't know, allegedly was fucking around with coke or something.
Really?
And just was completely off his rocker. It was a weird time for him.
Yeah, I got a friend who grew up with him.
Yeah?
I mean, literally, like, Wesley was sleeping on his couch when he got his first American Express commercial, his first acting job.
Whoa.
Yeah. And and then he got, I forgot what movie, he did some movie, I think it was a fight movie or something like that, and he kind of disappeared. And my buddy's wife, she's always like, you better never Wesley Snipe us.
Oh.
You better not disappear.
This is his first movie?
Commercial for Western Union in 87.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Look at that. Commercials. Commercial money was always a big thing, right?
Back then, man, if you got a national commercial back then, you got paid.
Yeah. Back that up a hair to the scene where the pipe was going off. Huh. God damn. Hilarious. Look at the computer. God, look at the computer back then. It's a Western Union. Well, they're punching numbers into a terminal.
Got to get that bail money somehow.
That's our lifetime. In our lifetime, things have changed so radically. Just stop and think about 30 years before that. It wasn't much different.
No.
It was a little different, but not like it is now.
Well, you think of our parents' lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly.
To go from radio, like to have lived from radio to the internet.
Yeah.
Not that my mom will mess with the internet.
Your mom doesn't fuck with the internet?
Nah, we tried. Her church started doing the bulletins online, so we gave her a smartphone. Like a few years ago, I gave her one of those, what do they call it, the cricket phone?
Oh, yeah, where it has like 4 numbers on it?
Yeah, and that's all you do. And, well, they made a smartphone version, and it literally has one button that says email, a button that says text, a button that says pictures, and a button that says call. And it's like, Mom, I can't, like, This is the simplest we could do.
She wouldn't do it?
Yeah, she won't mess with it.
Wow.
She won't man, for a long time, my mom was still like, talk fast, it's long distance. It was like, don't worry, Mom. I got this. I got long distance money. I ain't rich, but I got long distance money.
That's right. Remember when roaming, like you would drive your car an hour outside of where your coverage area was, and you'd be fucked?
If you got AT&T, you still got roaming. Man, AT&T, they used to just rape me when I traveled. It was ridiculous.
Really?
Oh, and forget when you went to the festival in Montreal. It's like, listen, I'm gonna need my pay plus some AT&T money because I might make a call.
If you make one call, yeah. I know a lot of dudes who used their phone overseas and didn't know, and they got $1,000 bill when they got back home. Yeah. Like $1,000 for phone calls.
I know one guy. He used his data. Like he kept using his phone. Like he had a $3,000 bill when he came back from Montreal. His data was on 24/7 for like 8 days.
How could they charge you that much? That is just rude.
Well, they cut it in half or something like that, but it was still, unreal.
They give you a break.
Unreal.
So sweet of them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that competition has sort of erased that whole roaming thing. Like, because more people were jockeying for a share of the market,
right.
Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, all these different people and players, Sprint, and they just had to make some concessions for competition.
Well, the next big test is going to be a $1,000 iPhone, right? Because if people pay it, then that's what phones are going to cost.
Well, isn't that new Samsung Galaxy Note 8, isn't that similarly priced?
They're both going to be up there. Yeah, they're basically computers.
That Note 8 is pretty fucking sweet, man.
They're badass, but that's a big jump. That's basically you're doubling the price of a cell phone.
Is it? What are the new ones now?
I think new ones now are $500 to $600.
I don't think they are full price.
If you just buy it. But that's the point. But now you're not going to get that, because it's always been you get the discount if you sign up for 2 years, this or that.
Yeah.
Well, apparently with this one, it's going to be just you got to just buy the phone.
They're just getting greedy.
Yeah, so I think it's a test because if people don't go for it, then they'll be like, oh, well, we got to go back to the old model and discount.
Would you be willing to pay more money for a phone if you knew that the phone was made by people that got paid a living wage?
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, I'm all about that, man. I'm fine with paying more for something to take care of the employees.
That's the best argument for Made in America. That Made in America argument is like, some people look at it as patriotism or nationalism, and I could see that. But there's also the argument, if it's made in America, then people have to get paid, like at least a minimum wage,
Well, you know who said it, and it's been lost, and I think it's one of his great quotes? Henry Ford. Henry Ford said, never forget, you have to pay them enough to buy the cars.
That's a smart quote.
And they forgot.
Henry Ford was a wizard.
Yeah.
Henry Ford also figured out that you can make fenders out of hemp, and they're far superior to metal.
Yeah.
There's an old video. You ever see the old video of his first car?
No.
His first car that he made had fenders made out of hemp, and he's banging it with a hammer, and the hammer's just hemp is. Forget about whatever anybody feels about marijuana. Fucking stoners, they're always trying to push it on us. Just hemp itself as a textile, as a commodity. Hemp, when they use hemp to make things out of, hemp is a very strange fiber. Where if you had a piece of hemp, like the size of this water bottle, is a large water bottle, right? If you had a piece of hemp that was that thick, it would be hard like oak, but light like balsa wood. It's fucking weird.
It's similar to bamboo, or...
It's similar to bamboo, but stronger, much stronger. It's a very, very strange. The impact is 10 times stronger than steel. Mm-hmm. Hemp plastic panels. Now you go see if you can find the video. It's a crazy video.
Yeah, he just
because in the video he's banging on this fucking fender with a hammer.
Well, it's a crazy video because he had an iPhone to make videos in 1910.
No, that shit is... He probably had a dude on a truck filming this with one of those things.
Yeah.
They probably had to crank it back then, right?
Yeah, he had to crank it, yeah.
Yeah, he probably did. Like, that's his car. Actually, pretty dope car if you had that today. Drive around that bitch. Let everybody know. Look at this. He's wailing on it with a fucking hammer, and it just bounces off. Mm-hmm. And it's completely sustainable. you can plant it in an area and regenerate it within a year. Whereas if you have the same issue with trees, you try regenerating an area with trees, it takes decades.
So is it? Well, I guess it'd be more similar to bamboo than fiberglass.
Yes, more similar to bamboo than fiberglass, but superior to both of those things. It's fucking amazing. Fiberglass cracks and breaks.
I know.
But it's light like fiberglass, but far stronger.
I had a Corvette that the fender just cracked and broke off.
Oh, I have a Corvette. I have an older one.
You got a magnificent one.
Yeah, they who made a car recently out of hemp? Lotus. Lotus made a hemp car really recently, and people are hoping that other manufacturers are going to start using this because it's actually safer. It's stronger than fiberglass, safer than fiberglass, and it's like similar in terms of its weight. So that stripe down the middle is exposed. There's photos where you could see it more clearly, Jamie. See if you there it is. So that is what the actual fiber looks like, where it's not painted and sealed, or it's just sealed rather, but not colored. So you can see the fiber. It's incredible stuff, man, and it doesn't fuck with the environment. It's actually good. It's a cleaner process.
So why is it not being used?
Because it's connected to marijuana. That's the only reason.
It's just publicity.
Yeah, well,
it's just bad publicity.
Up until very recently, hemp was illegal to grow in the United States. Now, I know this for a fact because my company on it, we had to buy all of our hemp from Canada. When we sell hemp protein, which is one of the best versions of protein that you can get in plant-based form because it has a full amino acid profile, very easy to digest, and if you get high-quality hemp hearts like the stuff that we sell, it's real easy going down. Like, it doesn't fuck with you or give you gas. Like, some people have issues with, like, whey protein if they have any sort of lactose intolerance, and some people just doesn't agree with them. Hemp is very easy to digest. I mean, I take a hemp protein shake, and I'll go to the gym, like, an hour later and have no issues working out pretty hard. Whereas some stuff, it just ooh, I fucked up eating. But because of all the laws that have been in existence since the 1930s regarding hemp and marijuana, that's one thing that a lot of people don't even realize is that the laws were actually put in place to stop hemp as a commodity, not really to stop marijuana. They stopped marijuana to stop hemp. I mean, it was all done by William Randolph Hearst.
Right.
This fucking asshole in the 1930s ruined things in 2017 with propaganda. Even the term marijuana was never used. Marijuana was a wild Mexican tobacco. The reason why they used the term marijuana is because they could, instead of saying cannabis, which everybody already knew, instead of saying hemp, which everybody already knew, they said, well, there's this drug called marijuana, and these Mexicans and blacks are smoking this drug and raping all the white women.
Yeah, that
That's
was
literally
in the 13.
What they said.
Oh, yeah, in the 13, that documentary, they talked about it.
Fucking amazing.
Same thing with opium and the Chinese from the railroads.
Yeah.
That,
to this day, is why hemp is such a problem in this country. All that bullshit from 1930-something is why we still have issues with it today.
So does the hemp protein, do you get high off of it or anything? It doesn't. It's
no THC whatsoever.
Okay.
It's just the fiber from the stalks.
Yeah.
It's not
I'm just
from
curious
because
of me personally. I'm going to try it.
Oh, hemp protein is amazing. You know, but I do have to tell you, like CBDs, which are really great for pain and pain medication or pain inflammation, things along those lines. Some people, like Greg Fitzsimmons, says he gets high off of it. And I don't understand that. He said he tries that Charlotte's Web CBD oil, which is full profile hemp oil. He says it gets him high. But he might be crazy. Greg,
it fits. Who knows?
He's a silly boy.
Things react differently to his metabolism.
Yeah, but if we were reasonable and intelligent, we would be making a shitload of things with hemp. The fiber is so easy to regenerate. It's so easy to grow. It's totally sustainable. It's healthy.
Maybe that'll change.
I'm hoping.
Maybe that'll change in time.
Yeah.
We're slowly waking up and getting rid of those. Well, like you said, the propaganda that created it.
Well, another thing is that you can make plastic with it.
Yeah.
You can make biodegradable hemp plastic.
Well, even weed. I mean, we've had legal weed, right? People aren't running the streets raping.
I am.
But Joe, you might have been.
I just smoke pot, and I don't even know who I am. It's like I wake up covered in blood. Yeah.
Joe, there's an argument that it wasn't the weed.
Yeah. That's what I hear. The idea that, this is the one that's illegal is so fucking crazy.
Right.
When you can just go to a liquor store or just, go to a bar almost anywhere you look.
Yeah. And that's the lobby. I read this crazy article about the weed thing in Vegas. Like they made a compromise with the liquor lobby that you had to have a liquor distributor license to distribute the marijuana, to literally take it to the dispensaries, and no one got the license, so they couldn't deliver it. I'm sure they figured it out, but initially, like, nobody could deliver it.
Yeah.
The liquor companies were like, well, why would we deliver it? Like, we don't want to, we want you to drink.
Well, they were running into a shortage. It was so chaotic when they first started.
Because they couldn't distribute it anywhere.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Well, they couldn't keep up with the demand either. It was just so insane.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And they still have the money issue, right? They still have the issue of the risk of putting it in the banks, especially with Sessions.
Yeah.
Sessions wanting to be some anti-weed guy.
That little goofy elf. What a weird fucker that guy is. It's just, I like watching Trump shit on him.
Yeah.
You see him just sort of just swallow it and eat it. In the beginning, Trump was real high on him, and then he wouldn't recluse himself because of the investigation of Russia.
My favorite joke was when Roy Wood Jr. called Sessions a Confederate monument.
That's a great joke. Yeah, he was a guy it was Ted Kennedy that was calling him a disgrace, like back in the 1980s.
Oh, this guy he was too racist to be a judge, like in the Reagan era. And I mean, literally, like Congress was like, no, like you're too far gone. And this guy has a long history of crazy.
Yeah. Well, he wants to bring back the Just Say No days.
Yeah.
Literally said that he wants to bring back the policy of Just Say No and the war on drugs.
Yeah, the war on drugs, throwing people in jail forever.
Just say no. Like he's still living in the Nancy Reagan days.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that was probably progressive for him. You know what I mean? That was a lot.
Yeah, he's moved away from the far right.
He's one of those guys that like he wants it to be 1950.
Yeah.
That's his dream.
That's when he was kicking ass. He was in high school back then, getting all the ladies.
Yep.
Things were good.
He wants it to be 1950. There were black people were segregated. There were no Mexicans. Like Mexicans didn't even exist in the 1950s.
Ricky Ricardo was the closest thing we had to a Mexican.
He was the only Latino in America. And the Jets at West Side Story.
Isn't that crazy? Ricky Ricardo though was Cuban, and Cubans were completely respectable.
Yeah.
It's like a man from Spain. Mm-hmm. Like a man from Spain, like coming over to America would be a Spanish gentleman.
Right.
It's like there's a difference. Like when people started looking at Mexicans, it became this different thing.
Well,
right?
Cuba was Vegas.
Yeah,
Cuba was Vegas. My dad was around in that era when Cuba was where you went on vacation and gambling and
the
all
mob
that
ran
stuff.
it all.
Yeah.
That must have been weird times, huh?
Yeah, that had to be crazy, but
they still have the cars from back then.
Mm-hmm. And they keep them running with anything.
Anything.
You talk about engineers. Like, can you imagine if today you still had to keep a 1953 Chevy running with like, you know what I mean?
Lawnmower engines
like
and shit.
It's like, oh, you might think you're creative, but here's a 1953 Chevy, half of a boat engine and a lawnmower. Like this is literally the professor from Gilligan's Island, where you just you just make shit work.
Kids today don't remember that show. They remember MacGyver. They don't remember the professor from Gilligan's Island was the original MacGyver.
Oh, the professor used to like make machines out of bananas and palm fronds.
If they had that show today, everybody would be fucking. Nobody fucked back then.
No.
Nothing ever happened on TV. Ginger would just always have makeup on and flirt with everybody.
Yeah, she had heels and the dress on all the time.
And the smart people would look at Marianne and go, I don't want that. I want Marianne's the move. That's the move. You want her. She's like low key. She's probably a freak in bed, but she's like, shh. Keep it in the
She was probably banging Gilligan.
You think so?
Yeah.
In real life?
Yeah, because, no, you figure the professor and the skipper were fighting over Ginger all the time, right? And the Howells had each other.
Yeah.
So Marianne, she just, slip in and out on Gilligan.
What about Skipper? That poor fuck.
Skipper just...
Bizarre attacks in Havana hit U.S. spy network in Cuba. What is that?
I just typed in this. I was looking at recent news, and this is coming out like yesterday.
Attacks on U.S. personnel in Havana. What is this?
I don't know.
What's happening to them? Spies posted to the embassy under diplomatic cover reported hearing bizarre sounds and experiencing. Oh, this was audio attacks, right? They were hitting them with sound.
Oh shit! Sorry, wrong button.
What happened now? Experiencing even stranger physical effects. The United States realized something was wrong. Individuals familiar with the situation said, "Yeah, they're using some sonic weapon." And it started within days of President Donald Trump's surprise election in November. Surprise election? Okay. The precise timeline remains unclear, including whether intelligence officers were the first victims hit or merely the first victims to report it. The U.S. has called the situation ongoing. To date, the Trump administration largely has described the 21 victims, at the U.S. Embassy personnel or members of the diplomatic community. That description suggested only bona fide diplomats and their family members were struck with no logical motivation beyond disrupting U.S.-Cuban relations. Yeah, it was some sort of see, they're not even describing what kind of attack it is.
So it was some kind of sonic attack?
Yeah. Scroll down here. The first disturbing reports of piercing, high-pitched noises and inexplicable ailments pointed to someone deliberately targeting the U.S. government's intelligence network on a communist-run island and what seems like a bone-chilling escalation of the tit-for-tat spy games the Washington and Havana have waged over the last half-century. Oh, there's an ad for me in New Year's. Interesting.
Have you ever heard of the brown note?
What's that?
I was thought that maybe it was getting at this, but I don't even know if it's actually real, but it sounds like it's real. It's a sonic note that can be used, supposedly weaponized, to make someone shit themselves.
Oh, I did hear about that.
And when I was in audio school, I remember we were asking our teacher if that's a possibility or whatnot, and I don't know if we ever got anywhere real with it.
Let's not test it while I'm here. How's that sound?
I don't know who
your
next
guest is.
You wouldn't be able to hear it.
Oh,
because human hearing stops at 20 hertz, which is a low bass, and you have to have really good hearing to even hear that. So if you do sound tests, someone will play that sound, and it'll almost just sound like a pressure. You'll feel like a pressure change in your head.
I have a friend whose ears are fucked up. My friend John Dudley, you know John Dudley. His ears are fucked up from guns. Like he shot a lot of guns when he was younger, and he blew his hearing out. But so he has a hard time hearing certain things, but he can hear really deep sounds way better than I can. My hearing is good, but he's got it's almost like, you know, when someone is blind, they can hear better. It's almost like that. Like his hearing is fucked up, but certain notes penetrate that don't get me. Like he can hear like deep sounds, like an animal grunting. And he's like, "You hear that?" I'm like, "No, I don't hear anything." Like he can hear shit that most people can't hear. It's weird.
It's very weird.
Because most of his sound is fucked up.
Yeah. So he just.
Is that brown note real?
That's why I was sort of asking if you'd ever heard of it, or
I have heard of it.
That would be your best and worst podcast ever.
The Brown Note podcast? Yeah. A bunch of people driving their cars, just shitting themselves on the train, shitting themselves on planes.
Oh my God, that was amazing, but I hate it.
Yeah, imagine you play it in the background of the most amazing podcast ever. Like you have some really cool person in here, really interesting subject. Oh,
yeah, I remember Mythbusters tried to do this, and I think they used a really, really big sound system to try to recreate this low frequency because it's almost impossible to get. And I think they didn't get very far.
Because they don't have that government shit, bro. Stuff they're using in Cuba. Maybe that's what's going on. Those people are shitting themselves. They just don't want to say it.
That's what I did. I was hoping it would say something like that. But it didn't.
Yeah, I wonder what the sonic attack is. Like, do they point it at you?
They have that. I know for sure. The speakers that can be.
They can literally point it at you like across the street and press a button. The sound's going right at you and fucking with your ear hearing.
Yeah, well, sound is directional, so that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. How weird is that they're doing? Who's doing that? Must be someone in the Cuban government doesn't want us over there.
Just to fuck with the diplomats.
The Yankee spies.
Like they said, that is something that's always going on, though. Just little games they play with each other.
Yeah, this says they couldn't even in Cuba. They couldn't even hear him. They just weren't, and they weren't even aware of an attack. Just later, they had symptoms.
Oh wow!
Probably hell of a headache. I would imagine.
Yeah. How boy. Imagine if that gets into the wrong hands. What if that becomes like, technology gets into the hands of regular people eventually, like tasers and shit. You just go buy a taser. Imagine you could buy some sound shit and just point at your neighbor while he's mowing the lawn.
If
EMP is an EMP a real threat to like America or whatever, like in a Matrix style, EMP wipes out all of the electronics.
Well, the real issue with it is natural solar blasts, any sort of solar flare. I mean, there's a massive potential for solar interruption of our entire power grid. Like some massive solar flare happens and just cooks all of our satellites. The entire power grid, we have to start from scratch. Yeah. We're down, no power for months.
The EMP, whoa, we're in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The EMP is real, but I think you have to create so much power to have one that big. I think that's the limiting factor on it.
I had a guy in here, Peter Schiff was here. What is this?
It's the
day the sun brought darkness.
In Quebec, there was a blackout caused by a solar flare.
And like that was in the 90s?
89, it says.
Ah, okay. The entire province of Quebec, Canada, suffered an electrical power blackout. Hundreds of blackouts occurred in some parts of North America every year. The Quebec blackout was different because this one was caused by a solar storm. Yeah, apparently, like what we've tracked so far in terms of like solar activity is just a tiny fraction of what the sun is capable of. But the sun is capable of some pretty wild variations, and if those wild variations, if it hits like a real odd end, it could just fuck our entire system up.
Well, we're at the mercy of nature.
Always.
You know, no matter how big our egos get over our creations, what we build, nature is like, I'll wipe that shit out in a minute. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. I used to do a joke about that. Like, oh, look at my beach house. Whoosh.
Beach houses are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I stayed at one for a while. And at nighttime, it reveals itself.
Yeah.
In the daytime, it looks beautiful. Look at all that beautiful blue water. It's amazing. It's so pretty. Look at the seagulls.
The ocean.
At night, it is a black monster. It's like space. It's a dark monster because you don't see anything. And you realize, like, oh, that is fucking quadrillions of gallons of water that could just swallow up the entire city.
Tons of weight and pressure.
Just like this.
You know. It's like snow. Snow is the same way. You know, it's shut everything down. Just a major snowfall.
But you don't live next to snow. That's the fucked up thing about living next to the ocean is that you're literally on the edge.
You can live in one of those places that gets hit with, 10 feet of snow, 12 feet of snow, and you're screwed.
Yeah, but you could see that shit coming and get out of Dodge.
But we don't.
No.
But
the water thing is crazy because all those rich people live on the edge.
Yeah. That's the same thing with earthquakes, right? I told my mom a long time ago, like, she'd be, are you okay? I said, Mom, let's hope one day I make enough money to live somewhere I have to worry about, fires or, you know what I mean? Like, I live in the valley. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had to worry about fires, but
Do you keep water?
There's no brush clearing. A little bit. No, I don't have a full kit. I have a Red Cross kit and a couple of gallons of water, but I'm gonna expand on that.
I have some food. Some freeze-dried food.
A guy who went through Katrina told me cash.
Cash?
He said, keep cash in the house. He said, after Katrina, milk was $100 a gallon.
100?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he said you got to keep a large sum of cash in the house as part of your disaster kit. Something I never would have thought of, but he said, yeah, if there's a disaster, the price of everything goes up, and cash is the only currency. Like, you can't use credit cards if there's no electricity.
Wasn't there an issue in Houston where people getting arrested for price gouging on water and shit like that?
Yeah, they were charging, I don't know, what was it, $90 a case, I think, for water, and $100 a gallon for gas or something. It's human nature.
Yeah, indeed.
What are you going to do with us?
I wish we could wrap this up on a nice note, but I gotta end this.
All right.
Anything good to say to people?
Yeah. Be nice to people. You know what bothers? No, seriously. This is a little thing, but you know what bothers me? If you're in the elevator, don't hit the door close button.
Yeah.
That's just the asshole button. It's just an asshole. There's no time that door closed. That's an asshole move.
People like it though. They like to press that button and see someone almost hold it. Oh, you went away.
That's how I'm changing the world, Joe. That's how I'm changing. Listen, I can't solve gun violence. I can't help with the football protests or anything. But if you can just not press the door close button, it's a start.
But there are some dumb motherfuckers with like 4 kids when the elevator's completely packed. Like, hold the door. Like, no. Where are you going?
No,
Where are you going? Where are you going?
And if your kid presses every button on the elevator and he accidentally takes one to the head, we can't be held responsible. I'm not saying that.
His head is elbow height. We're just moving.
I'm not saying that.
He got in the way of
movement.
movement.
I'm just saying, stay away from the door close button.
Don't press that door close button, ladies and gentlemen. That's strong advice from Alonzo Bodden. It's the wings of a butterfly that eventually become a hurricane. It's you letting someone in that elevator might change the course of history. Think about it. It's like when Peter Parker let that burglar pass by and it killed his Uncle Ben.
Boom.
And it turned him into Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Strong words. I like it. Alonzo Bodden, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, brother.